Okay, welcome everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, November 14th. We have a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, a general meeting, and a public hearing. I first would like to thank Jamie Zionic for winning her elections, her new seat on the board, and everybody else. George was up for re-election, Amy was up for re-election, and Mike was up for re-election. Yeah. I think all four of you won by landslides. So congratulations. And you also, nobody else stepped up, so you must be doing a great job. You have myself and Adam for another 2 years, and we'll see what happens in 18 months. So let's get right into it. The first item on the agenda is the election of officers for the chairman, the vice chairman, the secretary, and the Blight Review Board. That's an appointment. The way this is typically handled, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, is the most senior person runs the board?
I think that's what we've traditionally done.
That's what we traditionally done? Okay, so the most senior person is?
You mean, yeah, you've been here the longest.
I guess so. So to start it out, I would ask anyone for nominations for the officer, for the position of chairman. The nomination open?
I would like to nominate as tribute Steve O'Vanny.
As tribute.
You're going into the Hunger Games.
It's a reference to it.
There you go. Is there a second to that nomination?
I'll second that.
There's a second. Any other nominations for chairman? Seeing none, we will close nominations for the position of chairman. Let's call for a vote. All those in favor of Stephen O'Vanny being chairman again? Say aye, raise your hand. Yeah. All those opposed? All those abstained? Yeah. There we go. Thank you. I appreciate that, everybody. I do enjoy the job, and I appreciate your support and your help and your whatever else they say. The next item on the agenda is the election of the vice chairman for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Are there any nominations for vice chairman?
If I may, I'd like to nominate Adam Balgach. I know, having had the experience, that he can cope with the stress that comes with the position. More substantively, he can run it well. He knows the substances to talk about and question about, so he'll do a great job.
Fantastic. Is there a second to that nomination? Mrs. Barsanti, next to that. Any other nominations for vice chairman? Seeing none, we will close the nominations for vice chairman. All those in favor of Adam Baldrick being the vice chairman, Balgash being the vice chairman? Anybody opposed?
Abstain.
Abstains? One abstention. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Next item on the list is the position of secretary. Anyone would like to nominate someone for the position of secretary?
I would like to nominate Mike.
Is there a second to that nomination? Just a second. Any other nominations for secretary? Nope. We will close nomination for secretary. All those in favor of Mike Netter being the secretary for the Planning and Zoning Commissions, raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
No. There you go. There you go. Thank you, sir. Welcome.
My own advocate.
We'll see your name in the paper all the time.
Ruin your Google searches.
Jim Rand became famous. And the next person is the appointment of the Blight Review Board. And there are nominations for, I would like to nominate George Riley for the Blight Review Board. He's been on it for 3-4 years now?
3, I guess, yeah.
3 years now. I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think you were the last year's chairman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I was.
And there's other work they're doing there is great. So I would like to nominate George Riley for that position. Is there a second?
Adam or I.
Adam makes a second. All in favor?
Thank you.
There you go. 6-0.
Keeps me out of the house.
Get those people.
That are all the officers that we're going to elect tonight. Was there another officer or somebody that goes on there like for?
It used to be Westcog or this regional planning agency, but they reorganized a few years ago, so that's
it, right?
That's it, so.
Fantastic. Just Kevin was on Blight for a while. All right, fantastic. All right, great. That is the end of that point on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the approval of next year, starting in January 2024, the meeting schedule. The staff has drafted a meeting schedule as a campaign promise. I think I said we should switch the start of the meetings to 7 o'clock. Is everybody okay with the 7 o'clock? And you were okay
Yep.
with that? You were one of the biggest
Yep.
items.
I'm good.
Jamie, that's okay for you? You were on here when we were talking about that last time.
Yes. Yep.
Fantastic. I think we got a lot of
Yeah.
votes for that,
Good for me.
okay? Just doing a quick draft on it, look at this. I'm just gonna double check. We checked school vacation schedules, and I see there's nothing on Labor Day. There's nothing on Election Day. There's nothing, I think it's Memorial Day. I think you have Labor Day Tuesday, probably, which is.
We do have Labor Day Tuesday.
Is it Memorial Day Tuesday also, or no?
Yeah, could be the day after that. We can certainly adjust those. You can see we've adjusted some of the room numbers to avoid conflicts with the Board of Finance on those days, who Board of Finance likes using this room as well.
Fantastic. And just as tradition passes, we have no meetings in August, and we have no meetings scheduled for December. So the way it's designed is that there's three meetings a month for 10 months a year, or 30 meetings. Some may be canceled and some may be added. Could I have a motion to approve the schedule as drafted? Adam makes the motion. Is there a second? Mike makes the second. All those in favor? 6-0. Our meeting schedule is it. So for the general public and for all you guys that come up here a lot, we're going to start at 7 o'clock now. So hopefully that's copacetic with you guys. I know Shelton's not that far away. Maybe you can leave your office at 4:30. If you get stuck in traffic with all right.
It's like a 3 o'clock leave time, right? 95.
All right.
I will inquire of Jeremy, I'd never noticed before, I've seen this now 3 times at least, but we actually call 1 week's meeting a planning meeting, and another week's meeting a general meeting.
Yeah, what we try to do in the best case scenario is try to have one night of just hearings, and then the following week is just general business. Sometimes it works out that way, and so today, which would normally be a general meeting, again, we have the dynamic of trying to avoid meetings in December, so we push some public hearing items on for tonight. So while it's the best intentions, sometimes things get...
And nomenclature, I suppose.
Exactly.
There's no minimum required planning meeting.
No.
The big thing, I think, relative to that, to what Jeremy said, are these dates, the application deadline. So if you want to get on the agenda, you have to have your applications in for the next public meeting that's coming up. The only exemptions to that, I think, are town business and Board of Education. But usually we know about that.
Yeah, usually we try to move, but it gives applicants, engineers, architects kind of a layout of, hey, something to aim for.
And those dates that you have here, the 14th, 10th, and those are probably Thursdays, right? Not Fridays anymore?
That's correct, we changed them, so they're Thursday afternoons, and then when Fred comes into work Monday, he has a virtual stack of applications to go through and sort out and organize the agenda.
Fantastic. All right, great, thank you. Continue on with the general meeting. The next item on the agenda is deliberations and possible decisions regarding the following. Coastal Site Plan Review number 116B as in boy, floodstone prevention application number 104B, PL 23-138, Joseph and Amy Gold at 17 Tokeneke Trail. The proposal to reconfigure and construct additions to the south side of the existing residence and terrace and deck areas, including construction of retaining walls, landscape steps, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas. Inside your electronic packets or card packets, we got a draft of the resolution for that application. Are there any questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors in this one at this point in time?
I am recused.
You're recused on
Or
that?
abstaining, I guess. Right, yeah, I'm not recused, I'm abstaining. I
Okay.
wasn't there.
That's correct.
Fantastic. Anybody have anything on this one? It was a simple kind of application. Pretty clean document. Is Jamie voting on these?
No, Jamie said that She
I'll
too.
abstain from the two, October.
Okay, okay, that's cool. Adam, you all good?
Yeah, it was good. I didn't see anything in the resolution.
Okay. Motion to approve as submitted. Amy makes a motion. Adam makes a second. All in favor? It'll be 4 to
0.
0 to 2.
As written.
Okay,
Got it, thank you.
that was written. Fantastic. Next item on the agenda is coastal site plan review number 72 Season Charlie, flood dam prevention application number 60 Season Charlie, PL 23-98. Michael and Paige Scardigli, missed it last time too, at 9 Seagate Road. Proposal to construct a new 250 square foot plus or minus 250 plus or minus square foot 3-season porch and patio area and lands and associated stormwater management at the southwest side of the existing single-family residence and perform related site development activities within regulated areas. This was the site that was going to put the screened-in porch on the side up on piles with floors that the water can go through it. In our packets, we got a draft resolution, again dated today. Pretty straightforward. Any questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors on this one?
Nope.
All clean?
Good to me.
Fantastic.
Abstaining.
You're abstaining too? Okay. Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Adam makes the motion. Mike makes the second. All those in favor? That is 4 to 0. That application's approved. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have a set of minutes here from October 24th. We had the public hearing on Tokeneke Trail. We had the 9 Seagate item, and then we had Patrick McMahon made a presentation from Darien Commons. And I think that was pretty much it. We deliberated on both Tokeneke Trail and 9 Seagate Road, and then approved some minutes. And there was a small chairman's report. Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors on this one? All set?
Should I abstain from that?
Probably should abstain unless you really watched it on TV. We'll start you next month.
I'm abstaining too.
Okay. Motion to approve as submitted. Adam makes a motion. Amy makes a second. All in favor? 4 to 0 to 2.
Got it.
Fantastic. All right. That's that. I would like to do a quick change of the agenda and move the chairman's report, director's report, and other business to after the.
Sure.
So could I get a motion to change the agenda, reorganize it? George makes the motion. Mike makes the second. Okay, we're going to change the agenda to move a chairman's report, director's report, and any other business to after the public hearing, so we can get started on that one. All right? So we're going to put the general meeting on hold for a minute, and we're going to get right into the public hearing. The first part of item on the public hearing is special permit application number 261B at 770 BPR Darien LLC, Jakeline's Beauty Salon at 770 Boston Post Road. The proposal is to establish a new 240 plus or minus square foot beauty salon in a portion of the first floor space formerly occupied by Allstate Insurance. The 0.23 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the southeast side of Boston Post Road, approximately 100 feet northeast of its intersection with Sedgwick Avenue, and is shown on Assessor's map number 16 as lot 106 in the design business zone, the DBD zone. This is that White House again that is adjacent to, I still call it Houlihan Lawrence's building, which at one point in time was Kelly Real Estate's building, right on the corner. You want to take us out and show us what's going on here? We approved somebody here a couple months ago, which was a pickup jewelry store.
Correct.
Go right
This
ahead.
application was submitted under section 1000, under the Darien zoning regulations, under the special permit regulations. Steve, you're correct. The commission approved a jewelry store in the first floor space of this building in June of this past year. The applicant has now come back before us, or the property owner has come back before us, requesting to open a beauty studio. In addition,
in a different room in the same house.
in a different room in the same house on the first floor.
Yep.
In addition to this proposed use, the jewelry store, the applicant has also, or is in the process of placing a hygienist's office also on the first level. Each of these uses is roughly about 200 square feet. And then there's a 3-bedroom apartment on the second floor of the building. So
Is the jewelry store House of Teresi Designs? Is that the same person?
it is, yeah. Teresia Jewelry is correct, is the business.
Okay.
The parking regulations for the zone for personal service uses and for dental clinics, which is what the hygienist falls under, is 1 space per 200 square feet of floor area, and then for the 3-bedroom apartment on the second floor of the building, the regulations require 2.5 spaces. So for these combined uses, the jewelry, the beauty studio, the hygienist.
We have not seen the hygienist yet, right?
The commission will not be seeing the hygienist because it's a use permitted as of right in the regulations. But when you combine all of the uses, the jewelry, the hygienist, the beauty studio, and then the 3-bedroom apartment, you're roughly in the range of 6.5 to 7 parking spaces required. There are 6 to 7 parking spaces in front of the house currently. So as staff, we do believe that these uses do meet the parking requirement. However, if the applicant comes back before the commission with any additional uses for the first floor space, that could put us in the position of, pushing over the parking reg. So the commission should be aware of that moving forward.
So it says the total bottom floor is 1,300 square feet. So far, we've rented out about 750 or 800 square feet, so you got 500 square feet left. Right?
Correct. The property, the property owner, Ling Zhao, is here this evening to answer any specific questions you have regarding this particular application, and then her plans moving forward for renting out the additional space as well.
Okay.
What is the additional space?
She's going to have to clarify that for the commission.
Kitchen or dining room?
I'm not the owner.
Yeah, she's a tenant.
She's the tenant.
So why don't you come up to the podium? So are you
Oh, I'm from...
Are you Jakeline?
No. I'm Jakeline.
okay? Come on up.
But as I know, the owner is not...
You have to come up to the podium anyway.
To rent the rest, because it's in the back.
Who's Ling Zhao?
She's not here.
She's the property owner.
Okay. Hi, we don't bite. We're okay. Can you just say your name for the record?
My name is Jakeline Espinoza.
Okay. And it sounds like you want to open up a beauty salon and put on eyelashes on people in town.
Yeah, so I'm currently in Phoenix Salon Suites, but it's too small of a space. So I wanted to...
Where's Phoenix Salon? Is that in Darien too?
It's in Westport.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to move your little business, your what do you call it, business here to?
Yeah. So I live down the street, so it's a lot easier for me as
You
well.
commute all the way to Westport?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not that far, but...
No, it's not. but
Yeah.
If there's traffic.
Yeah, there is a lot of traffic sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then when you go to work, are you going to have your own car?
Yes.
Okay.
And
then-
then for my client as well. It'll only be me and the client in the room, so it'll
Okay.
only be 2 spaces.
And do clients overlap? So it's like, one's waiting and you're almost finished with the first person, then you're getting a second person?
I usually space out my clients an hour, so just so I'm not rushing or anything. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
What about, I mean, I have 3 daughters that go to prom. Can you take all 3 of them at the same time? Can we drop them
No.
off?
No, I can't.
You can't, wow. Okay.
I can't do them all at the same time either. So
Yeah, okay. So you think it's really just so, if somebody doesn't get dropped off and they can drive, there's only be 1 at a time?
I'm sorry.
There's only be 1 person at a time?
Yeah, it's
that
only
comes
one
in.
person at a time.
Okay. Is there a lot of other space inside the building? You've been inside it, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, I've only been inside the studio part that I want to rent out, but.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what do you want to do?
My understanding is that in addition to these 3 spaces, the jewelry store, the hygienist, and the beauty studio, I believe that she's looking to rent 1 additional space on the first floor. I don't know what the square footage of that space would be.
The total for the first floor is 1,300.
That's what, yeah. Is that what it says on the assessor's records? I mean, to Mike Netter's point, most of the time, a lot of the parking lots are being self-regulated.
Yeah.
You can't park there, and there's plenty of
Right.
municipal parking on the corner.
Yeah. And in terms of the nature of the uses as well, the jewelry use, and then
Yeah.
Jakeline has told us tonight how she runs her operation in terms of spacing the clients out, which I think is essential for this situation.
Right, and
The
then.
jeweler is also by appointment only.
Right,
so
that
it
was
wasn't
to
like-
pick up your
yeah,
stuff, right?
It wasn't like long-term either, it's in and
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
There also is 2-hour parking on the Boston Post Road as well, in front of the building.
Is there?
How
Okay.
many spaces are there?
On the Post Road? Off the top of my head, I'm not certain.
I didn't think there was 2. That's pretty close to the intersection.
Yeah. She get-
I wouldn't think there's parking on the street there. Yeah, I don't know if there's any parking in front of the building, but, I mean, it's 250 square feet. It's just,
I think the issue is really more when the fourth applicant comes forward.
Right.
Then they need to show a plan.
Right.
That it jives with the complection of their tenants.
Agreed.
because they may let them running out. If they run out, then they run
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, if they run out, they can't rent it.
Right,
Yeah.
that happens. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. We got to understand where you, now I just got to check with this in public hearing, right?
Yeah.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak to this application? The only issue that we have with the thing, it's not your issue, it's the town's issue or the landlord's issue, is parking. And, we wish
Yeah.
you all the success in the world to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I do space out my clients, so there wouldn't be like any sort of like accumulation of people like waiting for me or anything.
Okay.
So
And what hours of the day do you think you're going to be working, and how many days a week?
how many days a week am I working?
And then what kind of hours?
So I'm working Monday through Saturday, and sometimes I work from 8 to 8 or 8 to 3. It really depends.
It depends on, you're not
on
going to
the
go in at 8
client.
if no one's made an appointment, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so it's an as-needed basis.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak to this application? I already asked that, right? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing. Anyone makes a motion, looking for a second? Devin makes a second, okay. What we're going to do is we're going to probably deliberate on this and just talk about it, either probably not tonight, right?
Yeah.
This,
The commission next meets in 2 weeks on November 28th, and it's likely we'll have some kind of decision for you on
Okay.
the 28th.
Okay. Sounds
yeah,
good.
maybe we can draft one and,
Yeah, we'll work on it.
okay. Okay, so we need a couple of weeks to give you the full approval.
Okay.
All right, so don't sign the lease yet.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, good luck, thank you. All righty, next item on the agenda is business site plan application number 104, B as in boy, special permit application number 333, floods dam prevention application number 439, land filling and regrading application number 558, PL-23-145, 1852 Darien 1 LLC, Cloud 10 Smart Wash at 54 Boston Post Road. The proposal is to redevelop the property formerly occupied by Bertucci's Restaurant as a new car wash, including a 5,150 square foot building, plus or minus per square foot building with wash bay, 34 exterior self-service detailing spaces, and 5 employee parking spaces, and perform related site development activities within a regulated area, including the installation of stormwater management and on-site landscaping, a new traffic signal at the intersection of Boston Post Road and West Norwalk Road. The 2.13 plus or minus acres subject property is located on the south side of Boston Post Road at its intersection with West Norwalk Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 32 as lots 1 and 2 in the Service Business Zone, SB zone. Perfect. You guys want to give us a quick overview of it?
Sure.
Stand by one second. I haven't been able to get into the site.
Yeah, all the P&Z apps are showing up as 404 on, I can pull up like the ARB application.
In terms of right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This afternoon it was fine.
Yeah, among the options I have here is not the usual planning and zoning application. But I see Mike has got it.
Yeah, I loaded it earlier.
I had loaded mine earlier.
If it doesn't work, you have the old-fashioned boards?
We have the old-fashioned boards. We also have the...
You have your PowerPoint
Oh,
presentation.
beautiful.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it.
ARB is showing up, and like I could see the list of all the permits they've applied for, but when you try and click in the planning and zoning, same thing with her application, it's just not found.
Interesting.
Okay, we're gonna have to take a look into that.
Jamie, find it?
Yeah, I can pull it up, but I
Technical
pulled it up from the email, the agenda from the email.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
you might have maybe the link from the.
Maybe we should try that. I will. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Steve, you're right. This is a new application to establish or redevelopment the Bertucci site into a new car wash. The application was submitted under sections 1,000, 1020, 820, and 850 of the Darien zoning regulations. Those are business site plan application regulations, special permit regulations, flood damage prevention regulations, and landfilling regrading regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. He was hired by the commission as one of our peer reviewers and conducted a stormwater and drainage review of the proposal. Our second peer reviewer, Greg Del Rio of Hardesty and Hanover, was also retained by the commission to review the parking and traffic aspects of the proposal. Greg submitted a report and memo for the record dated November 1st, which the applicant is currently responding to. Joe Canis submitted comments for the record dated November 2nd, and the applicant submitted a response to those stormwater and engineering comments dated November 9th. The application was also referred out to the fire marshal's office. They submitted comments for the record dated October 16th. It was referred to the health department. They submitted comments for the record dated October 16th as well. And let's see, it was also referred out to the City of Norwalk and the Connecticut Department of Transportation. The application is currently before the Department of Transportation for review. We don't expect a formal review back from the DOT until January of next year. The application also went before the Architectural Review Board on October 16th. They're also revisiting the ARB this evening as we speak, or a little bit earlier tonight. And from what we understand, they're going to be going back to the ARB a third time.
Well, maybe not.
Okay.
So I heard it went very well for them at the ARB tonight. We just got word that, so they may not be going back to the ARB.
Breaking news.
I heard they got a positive report, so I'm sorry to interrupt.
So Jakeline of Carmody Law, the applicant's representative, is here with his team this evening to present the application and answer any questions that you may have.
Fantastic. Jay, welcome.
Great. Hey, thanks so much, everyone. For the record, Jay Klein of Carmody Law, here tonight on behalf of the applicants. To the new, I think, member of the P&Z Commission, welcome to the Commission. Thanks for joining. We are here tonight on behalf of Cloud 10 Smart Wash. Cloud 10 was founded in 2018 by Darien residents Brendan Johnson and Jeff Augusta. Both Mr. Johnson and Mr. Augusta are here with us this evening. We're also joined by other members of our project team, Bruce Beinfield, our architect, Matt Popp, our landscape architect, the two gentlemen that earned us that ARB approval a few minutes ago, Marissa Turallo and Chris Mojica of AKRF, our traffic engineers, and Brian McMahon, our project engineer, and the person running the show, Dan Chappell, another attorney at my firm. Cloud 10 has built 12 of these facilities, or 12 smart wash facilities across 4 different states. And just a few short months ago, they filed an application to bring what they look at as their home field facility here to Darien, Connecticut. Cloud 10 refers to themselves as a smart wash rather than a car wash, and that's really for good reason. Cloud 10 employs technology, AI, and modern systems really in every step of the smart wash, car wash experience. Environmental sustainability is really a primary pillar of the business that they do. They really value, using water efficiently and effectively, and also put a strong premium on really being an active and a contributing member of the business community. And that's certainly all the more important given the fact that this site will be the one that they will probably hear about the most. So with that, I think it's probably good just to lay out sort of the way we'll present this evening, sort of orient ourselves with the property and the neighborhood, walk through the site plan, how it will operate. I can give you a high-level view of the tech and the AI. We have Steve Sass of Cloud 10 here who can get into the nitty-gritty if you're interested in that. We've got a lot of numbers and data. And then I think we'll turn to our traffic experts to discuss traffic. And also get into the architecture and engineering of the thing. So, Dan, why don't we go to the next slide here? The property that we're looking at is 54 Boston Post Road. This was home to Bertucci's for a number of years, and then the restaurant closed in September of 2022. It's been vacant since that time. My clients purchased the property, I think it was July, August was when they took title to the property to build the smart wash that we're here to discuss. The property is really quite large at 2.14 acres, and it is located in what was known as the service business zone, right on the Darien Norwalk town line. I think what's notable too, and I'm just going to point to that, we've got a slide that shows this later, but there are currently 2 curb cuts on the property. Both of those curb cuts are 2-way, right? And those both of those curb cuts are, I think one is 20 and one is 50 some odd feet away from the West Norwalk Boston Post Road intersection. When you hear from Marissa and Chris earlier in a few minutes, you'll hear why that's a bad thing and why that was something that we wanted to address really immediately when we purchased the property. The other thing that I think jumps out when you look at the data on the site, and certainly when you look at this, the one mine's behind you, the one behind me, is really just the sheer amount of impervious coverage on the site. It's a 2.1 acre property, and 80% of that is impervious coverage, and there's no modern stormwater facilities on the property here today. Cloud 10 is really proposing significant solutions to both of those existing site challenges. Why don't we go to the next slide? Dan, this is just showing us on the zoning map and the SB zone. Let's go to the next slide, Dan. Of course, the restaurant building, and then the next slide. This just illustrates the orientation of these 2 curb cuts next to the West Norwalk Boston Post Road. intersection. And certainly that conglomeration of curb cuts doesn't help the traffic condition on the Boston Post Road, right? So you saw what the site looks like today, and you see what it looks like today on the survey. Why don't we go to the next slide, Dan? This is what we want to do on the property. You know, this is, at least in my estimation, a little outside the norm when you see when you think of a car wash, right? And maybe that's why this is a smart wash and not a car wash. You know, most auto uses don't hire someone like Bruce Beinfield or someone like Matt Pop to come in and design their facility, right? I don't know if this is Bruce's first car wash, but it's it's you know.
I gotta believe it's one head if it's more than two.
There you go. Exactly. And that again just speaks to really the level of attention to detail that our team and our client has brought to this. Cloud 10 is really, and I've learned more about the car wash industry than I ever thought I would myself. They really saw a gap in the market that, you know, the most facilities are selling their community short and selling their customers short. There's a way to do it smarter, there's a way to do it quicker, and there's a way to do it more efficiently. And Bruce, Matt, and the rest of our development team helped make that vision, or will help make this vision a reality here in Darien. I think the other thing that's worth mentioning too, in putting all this together, Cloud 10 spends a significant amount of time researching the needs and the demands of customers. Every really facet of their program, their business model, site acquisition, site experience takes the customer's point of view in mind in running a smart and quick facility. The size of this property is really terrific for a facility like Cloud 10, just because it will avoid some of the issues that folks maybe are concerned about when they see a queuing drive-through lane. And we'll get into that in a moment. I think the first thing that I want to mention is briefly touching the frontage of the property. I think the minimum landscaping requirement is 18 feet. We're closer to 30 feet than 18 feet. You can see really a great street tree experience and sidewalk path along the Boston Post Road. Chris and Marissa will get more into it, but we are consolidating the two existing curb cuts into one curb cut that will really line up nicely with the West Norwalk Boston Post Road intersection. And when you come to get, or if you choose to get your car washed here in the near future, you'll enter into the site via this one curb cut and drive down the west side of the building into what develops into 3 queuing lanes. That queuing system can accommodate 40 large vehicles at one time. We estimate the peak trip generation to be about 68 vehicles, so we can accommodate a substantial amount of our peak volume at one time. What that means is that we don't foresee a situation where there will be a spillover into the Boston Post Road, right? That's something that we don't want here and we don't need.
Jay, just to interrupt 1 second.
Sure.
Are you going to show us how the 40 cars fit in there, or is one of your engineers going to do that?
We have a queuing exhibit that can that we'll show you. Yeah, you don't have to take my
that was a question on the traffic engineer.
Yes, and as just a note to that, Chris and Marissa are working on that as we speak, and we expect that to be done quite soon. But the queuing exhibit is done tonight, and we can get all 40 vehicles on the site comfortably. Cloud 10 does have a membership program. What that means is if you're a Cloud 10 member, you'll be entering the site or entering the queuing and be directed towards the left or the more northerly lane. That's the members only lane. The other 2 lanes will be either new, sort of a hybrid new member and or new customer and member lanes. If you're a member, there's a technology on the southerly side of the building that will recognize your license plate, recognize the kind of car you have, recognize the kind of wash you like, recognize the kind of wash you need. That all helps to optimize the time that your vehicle spends in the car wash building itself. There will be an employee here as well as a precaution, but folks will drive up to this canopy, which is gated. And again, technology at the canopy will be able to figure out whose car got there first and open and close the gate accordingly so that you don't have a jam up once people pass the canopy in the station. From there, your vehicle will turn through this drive aisle and into the car wash building itself. This building can process about, I think it's 120 vehicles in an hour, so a significant capability to clean cars. I think at least with another unique experience about this, once you're done getting the exterior of your vehicle washed, you can either exit the site through this drive aisle, or you can take a right and clean the interior of your vehicle at one of the vacuum stations. I think some interesting, this thing is so full of safety features. There's AI that draws a box around your car and makes sure that you don't hit the car in front of you and the person behind you doesn't hit you either. It's really impressive what they've done.
Let's do a couple of threshold questions. You stay inside your car?
Yes, you stay inside your car.
You stay inside your car?
Yep.
Right? And you're inside the tunnel for 2 minutes?
Roundabout.
120 divided by hours.
2.5, 3, yeah.
Okay. And so the customer never gets out of the car?
No, unless you want to, if you have to.
After.
Right, but you never get out. You never get outside of your vehicle. Correct.
Got it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think another piece, and again, as the lawyer, I can only get so shallow into the details of this, but I think it's something worth highlighting: the environmental engineering practices that are deployed here at this site. Really ultra-efficient water-saving recycling systems that include the use of soft water, reclaiming water, and ensure that we're utilizing the lowest amount of water per gallon and the lowest amount of fresh water per gallon per car for every vehicle we wash. Cloud 10 doesn't use fresh water where it doesn't make sense, such as your wheel blasting or underbody wash, and they also utilize biodegradable, environmentally designed products designed by another Connecticut company called Simon. Another environmental feature and just a cool part of this project that your colleagues on the ARB were really keen to is that Cloud 10 is also proposing what's called a solar flower, and we have a slide that shows that in greater detail towards the end of the presentation that will help provide some of the energy needs for the car wash. The solar flower follows the sun throughout the day to optimize the amount of energy that it picks up for this facility.
Where's the solar flower again?
I'm sorry?
Where's the solar flower?
It's to the easterly, or northeasterly portion of the property. Brian McMahon is here to respond to some of the comments that Joe Canis provided. We'll certainly do that later on, but I think the issue that, when Cloud 10 was first looking at this property, the issue that was apparent to them and apparent to us and probably apparent to all of you is the traffic issue, right? How do we manage traffic on Boston Post Road? How can we be part of the solution? Our traffic engineers will go into great detail as to how this isn't having any impact on traffic conditions, but this negative impact on traffic conditions, but this is a real opportunity, we think, to make significant and meaningful improvements to the traffic experience on Boston Post Road. So I think with that, now is probably a good time. Well, why don't we go to the next slide, Dan? We should, before we turn things over. We got a positive referral from your colleagues on the ARB a couple of minutes ago. This is the building they've recommended approval on. Really, I think our goal was to create an iconic and really attractive looking building. Again, this isn't probably the typical car wash that you'd expect when you hear a car wash application is coming in. So with that said, Chris, Marissa, do you guys want to come up and talk about traffic?
Why don't we do the site plan first?
Oh, I mean, I walked through, I used the color site plan to walk through it, but if there are any specific details about the site plan you have a question on, compliant with the height, compliant with the setback standards.
I'm more concerned about the queuing and all that stuff.
Oh, sure. Well, Chris, you're going to get into queuing.
Yeah,
we can just go.
I have a slide that talks about at the tail end of my presentation.
I would like to hear compliance with the height.
Sure.
I didn't see a proposed zoning survey.
There was a zoning data chart in the site plan that was filed by Redness and Mead with our materials. It's SE1, I believe. The height might have changed imperceivably, but I think the building height comes out to 22 feet. Is that correct?
This shows
24 feet. Yeah. So the maximum height in the SB, I think, is 25, and this is at 24.
22.7?
Yeah, that point on the data chart is outdated by virtue of the ARB's actions 20 minutes ago. The total height is 20, for the building height is 24 feet now.
ARB made it taller.
When they asked us to slope the building and the way you see it, that changed the average grade calculation and the building height calculation. Yeah.
And then, do you have a person that's going to talk about these 34 vacuums?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think it might probably make sense for Chris to get into some of he has data on the vacuums, and we can address any other questions that he doesn't pick up on.
Okay. I'll let you go in the order that you want.
Great.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Just for the record, my name is Christopher Lohiga, traffic engineer with ACRF. I'm joined by my colleague, Marissa Turallo. Our team put together the traffic impact study for the Cloud 10 Smart Wash. What I want to do is kind of go over and walk you through the process for the traffic impact study. Your questions on queuing and parking, they're going to be addressed at the end of the presentation. So we will definitely work our way to that. You can go to the next slide. So not to sort of overdo what Jay mentioned, but really quickly from a traffic perspective, I think the only thing to add here in terms of what stands out about the access drives is that what further complicates the existing access drives is that when Bertucci's was open, the traffic exiting Bertucci's west of West Norwalk Road had to contend with the traffic entering and exiting Chipotle, which made it even more of a troublesome thing to do. Similarly to the east, the traffic exiting the Bertucci's when it was open had to contend with the TD Bank traffic exiting there depending on the time of the day. So there's a lot of conflicting movements here, and then wedged in the middle, West Norwalk Road, with all of that activity coming in and out of Post Road, became this sort of huge conflict zone, at the best way of putting it, with all of these vehicles going in and out, all of these different directions. And the crash data, which I'll talk to you about in a second, really kind of goes into, kind of explains sort of what the byproduct of that is, unfortunately. The last thing I'll call out here is that there is no pedestrian crossing here. The traffic data showed a limited amount of people illegally crossing Post Road at this location. I think maybe 10 pedestrians throughout the day. But it's really a function of the fact that you have bus stops right in front of the site, and the nearest pedestrian crossing is 300 feet to the east where the I-95 off-ramp is. And if you think about going further west, you're going almost to Kings Highway where you have another actual pedestrian crossing for Post Road. So just the lack of pedestrian mobility here, I know we're focused on vehicles, but I really want to look at this. I really encourage you to think about this from a multimodal perspective too. I'm going to go to the next slide. So West Norwalk Road, the biggest issue is getting into and out of West Norwalk Road from Post Road, as well as exiting West Norwalk Road. And if you've driven it, you already know I'm a Norwalk resident. That Chipotle was my lifeline in 2020. So I have personal experience knowing how this all works and the issues that come out of this. And especially with all of the vehicles coming out here and people just saying, you know what, I'm going to put my life into my own hands trying to get into Post Road because I don't want to wait 2 minutes to try to get out. And the crash data supports it. So we originally looked at a 5-year crash analysis period. Part of what I'll harp on too is a lot of the data and results we're showing here reflect. We've incorporated the peer review comments, and as Jay mentioned, in the coming days we will be uploading the revised report for your peer review consultant to review. But regarding crashes, we had 34 crashes at this intersection over a 6-year period, which is a lot. The more striking fact here is 40% of those crashes were angled crashes. And the angled crashes are really folks that are turning, colliding with folks, with other vehicles at almost a 90-degree angle. So it's a very serious situation happening here. So when we first looked at this whole site, the one thing that we said is, how can we simplify everything here to make it work? You can go to the next slide. So as Jay mentioned, we're consolidating the driveways into one location. What it does primarily is it gets rid of those conflict points. It consolidates them into other areas. From a sort of ancillary benefit, it does also make it slightly easier for people entering and exiting the Chipotle because they don't have contending traffic immediately across the street from them to worry about. Similarly with the TD Bank, we're not showing it here, but the TD Bank that used to be right over here, the exit there, they're not contending with traffic coming out. So it makes it a slightly easier experience I say slightly because we know how difficult it is to get into and out of Post Road as it is today. So that takes care of the access management issue. But more importantly, the traffic signal. You know, we looked at this right away and we wanted to understand whether a traffic signal was justified based off of DOT standards and practices. And what we found is it's justified based off of traffic today. This isn't a situation where a traffic signal is justified based on a development. This is a traffic signal that is warranted today based off of the volumes that are happening today. So we think it's just prudent to try to incorporate this into this design. And talking with Cloud 10, and I'll talk about the funding, that was the first discussion of, you know, how do we make this happen? Because, you know, from a road safety perspective, it's a little foolish to not do something that would improve road safety in this area too. But before I get to that, the traffic signal also provides other things. The crosswalks. The crosswalks don't exist today. So providing these crosswalks will not only make it important for pedestrians using Post Road, but also for people that take transit and actually get off at this bus stop, they can actually cross Post Road safely. So you're providing a huge improvement for pedestrians and transit users. And these, because per DOT guidelines, these will all be ADA compliant, so we'll be compliant with those as well. But to the funding issue, Cloud 10 understands that the funding is a significant amount on their end, in the realm of $500,000 at least, and they're willing to fund this and they're willing to partner with the DOT. And I know Fred, you had shared some emails with Tracy May at the department talking about how there's some discussion of a match. There is no match in this case. This is something that will be funded by Cloud 10, and I think it's just one of those things when we reach out to the department is again to reiterate the fact that this is a signal that is being privately funded, and it's not, even though it's formally being submitted to the department, I think it might have been misread as the town submitting to DOT, which is why they immediately came back and they said, you know, we require a match, because I think there was a funding mechanism sort of disconnect there.
Let me just interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
The traffic is fantastic, right? And you're not going to get an argument, I think, from anybody in town for the traffic signal. The question that I have is how fast can the state move? Because if we gave you guys an approval tomorrow night, you know, I bet you dollars to donuts, it takes the state 2 years to put the traffic circle in. So we moved this whole thing forward, and I'm being brutally honest with you, and I think, you know, Hardesty and Hammond's going to talk about it, is by the time that traffic signal gets put in place and is functional, is the building could have been built 3 times. Oh. So that's the issue that you have to grapple with, because if everything is going to be on the traffic signal and they drag their feet because it's got to bid out to a union and goes on and on and on and on and on, you know, that's red tape. We'll try to cut as much red tape as you can, well, you know, but that's where you have to have people up there. I mean, I did that with Redness and Mead years ago.
Similarly, in how Cloud 10 is going to fund it, Cloud 10 is also going to design it and construct it to DOT standards. So that DOT should not be the one constructing it or designing it, because it's not going to be through a town allocation or anything else. It's a fully private signal that they'll have to accept at the end of the process.
But how long does it take them to approve it? It's
they've
not like
already,
they approved traffic
so they've already
signal.
approved the traffic signal, for instance, for Wegmans adjacent into the city, right over the border in Norwalk.
Right, yeah. Wegmans been in the process for 3 years.
Wegmans just got submitted to the
I
Connecticut DOT.
I knew about Wegmans 3 years ago.
A lot of people knew about it. So I guess the process with Connecticut DOT, similar to what you're dealing with right now and we're all up against, is they want us to have submitted, everyone to have reviewed. They want it after this is done effectively, so it makes the start clock with Connecticut DOT longer. So Wegmans, for instance, just got their approval from the city of Norwalk less than a year ago. They're now going through OSTA to get their approvals. They've already secured with OSTA, and they're doing a lot more, for instance, than just one traffic signal.
Okay, I just want to be upfront about this, because you're not going to get an argument from anybody here. I don't think the police department's going to argue with you. I don't think anyone's going to argue with you. And we could look at traffic data, you know, for a long time. But it's if we're going to make this application and the certificate of occupancy contingent upon that traffic circle being red, green, and yellow, you got to make sure you figure that into your timing.
Yes.
That's all that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, so the other thing I'll add to that is the sort of the additional work that's sort of related here. There is a temporary traffic signal that is planned to be constructed at this intersection already, potentially next year, somewhere around there. They are redoing the West Cedar Bridge in Norwalk, and they've proposed a detour that goes through West Norwalk Road. So as part of that, that was part of the outreach that was done to the town, I want to say in 2022, about whether they would approve a permanent traffic signal at some point. But that project is completed with final design. They're going out to bid. So a temporary signal is going to be there at that point. And I think the discussion, once we get into DOT discussions, is going to be more of how do we go from temporary to permanent? Because there's some efficiencies that could be made there if the understanding is clear that this is a permanent signal versus a temporary signal that will be converted to a permanent one later on down the line.
Is that what you're proposing?
A permanent signal, yes.
No, you're proposing a temporary signal?
No. A separate project is the separate DOT. Yeah, the separate DOT project is proposing it. But what we're doing is saying if you're proposing a temporary signal, we're coming along. Also, funding is always a big hiccup, even with those signals. That's 90% of the battle, unfortunately, with the department.
I mean, federal paid for all their traffic signalization. Avalon paid for all theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, and that's how it gets done. The only thing I'm concerned about, it's just timing, that's all.
Well, we're also banking on the fact that, especially because we've highlighted safety concerns in our traffic study that we've all seen now, and they're putting in a temporary traffic signal, there's a lot of liability in putting in a temporary traffic signal, pulling it down, and then waiting for more safety issues to happen. So one of the things when we go through Connecticut DOT is, how can we help you? We're already going to fund the signal. Can we move from temporary to permanent in a way in which you don't lose signalization of this intersection in a period of time where people have gotten used to the safety of that traffic signal that's going to come with the temporary traffic signal. So I think we have a little bit.
You're not doing a temporary signal.
We are not doing the temporary. So the Connecticut DOT, as part of that project, is doing a temporary traffic signal.
Okay, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's
quickly.
Just get close to the microphone.
Just speaking with our client in the back of the room, they're not putting a shovel in the ground until they know they have the signal secured. They want it just as much as everyone else does, and their product is dependent on that in many respects. So just wanted to.
Okay, that's fine.
Go to the next slide. So really quickly, we'll go through the traffic study. The traffic study has been amended based on Hardesty and Hanover's comments. So originally, this traffic study looked at 4 intersections. This intersection number 4 identified here on the map has been added to the traffic study in response to Greg and his team's comment. So we've expanded the traffic study to look at 5 intersections. We looked at conditions in the weekday. We also looked at the weekend. And the only thing I'll highlight there is we didn't look at just one Saturday. We really tried to look at multiple Saturdays, just understanding how volatile some of the traffic is going in from Post Road to Connecticut Avenue, dealing with Costco and all of that wonderful stuff.
And I know in Hardesty and Hanover, they talked about other things in there, adding, Target, Walmart, and Costco.
Yes.
Chick-fil-A is getting redone. They bought the piece of land next door and increased their traffic, and I'm 99% sure that Costco's got a gas station going in there.
They are not. So they went to inland wetlands. So Costco went to inland wetlands in September with their stormwater improvement plans. And yes, a lot of people said, where's the gas station? Where's all of the extensions? Planning and zoning actually went on record and said that they're not going to approve it. So right now, I'll talk about Costco. Costco right now, they're looking to expand the parking lot. They haven't submitted any formal traffic studies as of yet, and based on discussions with the town, they're going to be working with the city's transportation, mobility, and parking department to define potential improvements. But those improvements would be done likely after, assuming this schedule holds, after this project comes into play. But it's parking improvements, and the only thing that they're doing is the 5,000 square foot or so tire center is getting relocated to another area. But overall, they're not expanding the property. They're really trying to make sure that the parking and the circulation are improved.
The tire center's coming out of the building. Okay.
Yeah. And then Target, the only thing that's happening, it's a pure tenant change, with the exception of they're adding 2 loading docks in the back of the building. So there was no traffic study performed for that. It's a similar use, and I think Target's coming in sometime next year. But besides the 2 loading docks, there are no improvements or expansions of square footage or anything like that.
You'll have more traffic coming out of Darien going to Target than you do have coming out of Darien going to Walmart. I can guarantee you that.
You could have it both ways. You could have it both ways. Just
fine.
like
No,
the rumors of the super
addressed it.
Walmart. Yeah.
Yeah, but also the Wegmans has very conservative assumptions in it as well, and one of the other things that we addressed in the H&H comment memorandum is adding the AM, which Norwalk didn't even require them to analyze, and we took the midday, which is presumably higher than first thing in the morning at Wegmans, though it's Wegmans, and I love Wegmans, so it's possible, but we put that onto the AM. So we have increased the overall background traffic notably, so where we didn't view that Target to Walmart is a discrete trip making because it's between similar big box retail uses, Wegmans we're adding a notable amount of traffic plus the growth. So we didn't just say, we understand Post Road's growing effectively, particularly from working in Norwalk as much as we do. We understand Post Road is growing.
Okay.
Yeah, we really wanted to stress test this from an impact assessment. We can go to the next slide. So as Jay mentioned, 68 vehicles will be entering the site during the highest peak hour, which we found to be Saturday midday. During the weekday, in the morning, and the evening, in the morning we're projecting about 36 vehicles coming in, and in the evening 56. So just to give you an order of magnitude of how things might disperse on a weekday versus a weekend. Quickly want to talk about trip generations. I know that's something that that Hardesty outlined in their initial peer review memo. We didn't go with the typical ITE trip generation manual approach, and it's mainly because a lot of times those estimates are on the lower end. Cloud 10 having these facilities open in 2021 with the similar square footage, they had trip generation data that was submitted and approved by Pennsylvania DOT as part of their developments.
What town is that in?
Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
Yeah, Wilkes-Barre.
I was hoping you were going to say it's on the main line, but okay.
Well, we could always go into comparisons there, but the traffic that it's serving is much greater than the traffic on Post Road from a daily traffic perspective.
Yep.
So the other thing that I'll note too is that the 68 vehicles, that's the full brunt of the estimated traffic. We did not take any credits for pass-by trips or anything to try to reduce the amount of traffic coming in here. We really tried to stress test this to understand what the potential impacts are. We can go to the next slide. So from a principal conclusion standpoint, the conclusions have not changed from the initial report to what we're going to submit in the coming days. Obviously, we talked about the signal with better access management. The traffic operations, the only place where there's a perceivable impact, and I say impact because it's a positive impact, is the traffic signal. Without any improvements, West Norwalk Road is at a failing level of service. This signal really just transforms it and makes it into an acceptable intersection. And I talked about the pedestrian facilities that would be improved with the signal access. Go to the next slide. So queuing. One of the things that we wanted to do was to look at and understand how much we could fit within the site reasonably. So what you see here is queuing starting from the entrance to the car wash tunnel, because even after you pass the pay stations, you still have to queue to cut down to one line to get into the car wash tunnel. So we looked at sort of a general vehicle in general, like a SUV. It doesn't look like an SUV, but the dimensions are a little bit reflective of an SUV. So based off of this queuing study, right now, this is showing approximately 40 vehicles in this graphic. And that's 40 vehicles not going to Post Road. That's 40 vehicles contained in the site. And this is significant compared to a lot of the other car washes, not only in Fairfield County, but in the region. I mean, there's a lot of car washes where that things back up onto Post Road. And it's something that Cloud 10 has said at the onset. It's not beneficial for them as a business. So that's why this is probably iteration 30 plus of the site plan. And a lot of it was done with the intent to make sure that this actually works and it's tested. So there is sufficient space to not only store vehicles coming in, but more importantly, there's sufficient space that you maintain any sort of egress from the property as well, if there's an emergency or anything else from those lines. Next
Is there
slide.
anything that you envision to be sold in their retail component? There's no retail component, so nobody would need to come in and park and go pop in and buy something?
No, so this is purely a car wash. There's no like
I'm noticing you cannot get to that as parking spaces without going through the wash.
Correct. And there's no ancillary retail or anything like that where you could buy stuff. You're literally coming to wash your car.
Got it.
If you wanted to use the vacuums,
you have to get a car wash.
You would have to get your car wash. If you come in to the car wash by mistake, you will be routed, and then here is a slip lane at the end if for some reason you don't want to wash your car.
Okay.
The other thing that was discussed with the police and with other folks here is for employees. Employees, when they come in, and Cloud 10 can talk about this, the employees are actually mandated to go through the car washes themselves, and it's really to make sure that the AI and the equipment are working properly. And one way to test it is to actually drive the car through it. So they're getting testing done on more or less a daily basis to make sure that this is still functional, and sort of using that data as well to make sure that everything's working properly.
All right, so now that was one of, I mean, I'm not going to take Greg's thunder, but he's got a lot of stuff inside his comments with regards to interior movements around. One of them being, you know, you get stuck in the queue, you're stuck in the queue. You know, and then we can figure out, it's a mathematical problem. If it's 120, if it's 120 cars per hour, and you're stuck in the queue, you can figure out mathematically how long it takes you to get through that whole shooting match.
If you're stuck in the queue, there are people to help you through it. And it's similar to, I'll tell you, if I go to, let's say, a Fred's Car Wash, Norwalk on Main Avenue. The moment you turn in there, it could probably fit about 5 or 10 cars, but once you're in there, you're in there. They're not gonna go ahead and back every car out to Main Avenue. So you have to pretty much sit there no matter what, work your way around, and then take a little slip lane right before the car tunnel.
Right, but in this instance, if my kid calls from school, I got 40 cars in front of me.
Well, one of the plus sides, yes, we're showing you can queue 40 cars, but we had said before that in a peak hour, in our peak hour, using their data, higher than ITE, no credits, anything else, 68 vehicles in a whole peak hour. So they're not all coming at one time. We do know the school letting out or something like that could surge it, but if it's 68 and we just assume they're generally spread out throughout the hour, we would have to have 60% of people all show up at the exact same time in that hour to fill this queue. So more likely than not, if you look at up to here, where we get 3 separate bypass lanes, that's 27 cars. That's also nearly 50% of what we do in an entire peak hour, and they move through in 3-minute intervals.
Okay.
So there should never be 40 cars anywhere near this. It's to show if something happened, if anything were to be an incident, they would not cause a problem on Post Road, which is key. However, there should almost always be one of these 3 lanes moving at a rate where even if you get stuck, you know, you made a mistake, you're gonna get up to here, they're gonna let you out, and maybe it's a 10-minute process, because you really should never be this car with the way that, and they've got data for months and months that we looked at for trip generation. Nothing measures up. We have the highest season. 68 cars really is the right number, and again, they'd all have to be here at the same time effectively to use the queue the way it's being shown.
And you're not allowed to use the vacuums unless you get a car wash.
That's the way it's designed, yes.
Okay.
And they can, and we can definitely elaborate on those tendencies based on how Cloud 10's other facilities operate. People don't enter just to use the vacuums; they enter to wash their cars and potentially use the vacuums, because there are some folks who literally are in and out. They don't wash they don't vacuum their cars; they go straight to the exit. You can go to the last slide on traffic. So parking, and I know you talked about this too. So we have 5 parking spaces for employees. During the day, there's probably 2 to 3 employees, so there's extra spaces there in case there's additional needs that need to be, you know, met from an employee standpoint throughout the day. The 34 vacuum-equipped parking spaces, that's roughly about half of the 68 during the maximum peak hour that come in. Keep in mind, these 34 parking spaces, nobody's going to sit there and vacuum for an entire hour. You know, typically from what Cloud 10 has seen, people vacuum for roughly 15 to 20 minutes. So the 34 spaces can accommodate much more than 34 vehicles in an hour, roughly like double to triple that. So in terms of a capacity standpoint, it can handle this as well. And considering that there's some folks who won't vacuum their cars, that's less of a stress on the amount of people using the parking spaces.
Is there going to be an employee that can vacuum your car for me? I'm lazy.
I'm lazy too. I wish.
Where are the employees? You mentioned there's one at the stop gate. Where are the other 2 or 3?
There's got to be a manager or something,
right?
There is a.
Is there a man?
So there's no, we're not going to have any. There's no staff that can vacuum your car for you. Vacuum your car.
No staff,
this is self vacuuming.
So it's funny. We're kind of talking about this principle a moment ago.
It's Darien, you know. Really? Okay.
Listen.
I'll pay the guy $5.
What Cloud 10, you know, when Brendan and his team, they've been, you know, reaching out to the community, and I think you've seen a result of some of that community outreach and really a terrific amount of support from neighbors and people in Darien. Some of the things that people say, well, hey, you know, my kid's a junior at Darien High, can they get a job here in the summer? And the answer is no, because this is a really technical endeavor. It's not your typical, you know, squeegee and retail facility.
I get it.
So the one employee will be typically stationed outside, and there is small, you know, appropriate office space inside the building for the right amount of staff. Typically, it's 2 people on site, per 2 employees on site at a time.
That's it.
Yeah. But if you give us an advance warning when you cut over, I'll vacuum.
We have to do a charity with the school vacuuming at the same time.
Okay, I'm going to ask one other question for Greg in advance. What about the conflict about when you come out of the tunnel and people going in? Is that wide enough?
Are you talking about right here?
Yep. That's the exact, that's the choke point.
These lanes are both 12-foot standard travel lanes to get out, so there isn't any, it looks like a squeeze just because of how wide everything is leading up to that point, but there isn't any. We have turning templates on this as well. There's no conflicting movements. If it's drawn as 2A, it will be able to handle 2 cars in either direction at the same time.
Even though people go whizzing in because the line's short and somebody's whizzing out?
Yeah, I mean, there's even, like, again, if you think kind of a lot of other drive aisles and retail sites you get, right? Nothing is even striped. You get 20 feet and it's have at it. You want to fly down to Target, I want to fly out of Target. We're going to kind of go at each other. This has a nice striped bulb out. It's probably, I mean, I don't want to speak for the site engineer, but I'm guessing that's about 1.5 to 2 feet. So there's going to be striping on the ground to separate the 2 vehicles.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
This is also an exit only. The site's actually designed to minimize vehicle conflict in a lot of points. Like, again, in this sense, they are free flow out. They don't have to come to a stop and look for conflicting because these cars coming in aren't able to go here. That's not an option from the median and from the raising.
I mean, we asked the engineers who did this later, can you cut that island back?
Can you cut what?
See the island that's there?
This island right here?
No, the other one.
The island, I think,
yeah,
up to the north.
Bingo.
This island.
We can cut back.
We can take
Well, I mean, that's
Like Marissa said, we've laid the template, Brian McMahon.
I know, yeah.
And we're on the templates on there, and they do work, but we can cut, there is room to cut that island back.
Yeah, we'll wait for Greg to speak to that.
I think just to add to, not to belabor, but to add, and you'll see this when Matt Pop shows his landscape plan. We do have, sorry, Dan, you know, bollards in this landscaped area too, so that helps to, you know, illustrate the lanes on the site. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
No, it's good.
and I think a lot of this again is tightened up. Like, there's room to do it. I think a lot of it's tightened up too because we don't want people to speed through this site either, right? Like when someone exits the car wash, we want them to look where they're going. We want them to be slow about it. We have enough space to hold you for a minute. We're not trying to rush you out, and that'll also help. God forbid someone is cutting through the site to walk to something else that's built anywhere around here. It's just, I think it's a little bit of a safety protocol too that you can't drive this particularly fast. So I'm assuming that's a large reason that a lot of these curbs are as tight as they are, is to make cars drive the speed we want them to drive in a parking lot.
The last thing I'll mention is I know Greg had a comment about this internal intersection that's about 30 or so feet away from the intersection. Based on the analysis in general, the queues are going to be minimal at this location. So there really isn't a safety issue here. I mean, this is really to make sure that people that are looking to not vacuum their parking spaces don't get stuck trying to navigate through this area and get aggravated trying to exit this site. They're providing them direct access to exit the site, and then this is stop controlled. So this intersection is controlled, even though it is close to the intersection, and it is functional within the site.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? And I'm not sure if it's you guys, but if you go back one slide, please, to the queuing. I just wanted somebody to run through an emergency incident where someone, the driver of a car on the southernmost queue and is blocked in by all those other cars, has had a heart attack. And our typical response is at least 3 vehicles. So how does that work? given the layout you see right there?
So I'm actually going to ask Steve. Steve, actually, his expertise for Cloud 10 is really to look at all of these different elements, and I'd rather have him speak to it based on
If now's the time or later, whatever you want to do.
Thank you. My name is Steve Sauce, Executive Vice President of Cloud 10. Smart washes, to answer you, if I slide in here.
Yeah, go for it.
So in looking at this would, I would just be ecstatic if this was constant all the time. My favorite car would show up.
We're going with worst case scenario here.
So worst case scenario.
Or best case scenarios, depending on what side you're on.
Well, so worst case scenario is always an emergency. And those happen. I'm not going to tell you they don't happen. I've been doing this for 3.5 decades, and I can count on one hand how often that's happened. Thank God. I can get these cars bailed out of the property very quickly. So this is a staffed area, always. We have a booth here, the staff members on staff. All of these gates can be controlled remotely from the booth or from the kiosks themselves. In the past, if we've had an emergency vehicle, police officer, fire department, regular civilian style vehicle, not a truck, needs to get out and get to a call, we will bail that lane out in a minute to a minute and a half. Ask these customers to come around. Even in Fairfield County, 99% will be amenable to that. We will loop them around and get them right back into where they belong. Inside the tunnel, if the cars are out of sequence, we have a drop and drag. We have a picture of your vehicle already. I'll put you right back into the queue. Even if you're mixed up, you're going to get the wash that you're supposed to get. It's very simple.
Okay. So, and there's a guy with a heart attack in that the southernmost spot. How close can an ambulance get to him, and how do they handle that?
So again, if we have an emergency situation, first off, we need to know what's going on. We're a lot more calm and cool than most people. We've been doing this for a while, and we don't just put newbies when we hire. So we have people that are experienced in doing this. First off, we'll make sure that our medical assistants have been called, 911 or whatever, and we'll try to render whatever we can without impeding anyone from doing anything. If we have to close the site, we will. I'm not in saving lives here. I'll save a life, but we're washing vehicles, okay? This isn't something that's gonna make or break anyone. We'll shut the site down to assist and make sure that people can get to it. That includes if vehicles need to come through the wrong way, we can get all of the site cleaned out pretty quickly. And like I said, I can count on one hand how often that's happened.
Okay, so the other two queuing lines can get cleaned out.
I can bail out this entire area, probably in 2 minutes.
Okay. Cool.
Would it be easier to bail it out going straight or making, because right now your bailout line's right there, yeah.
I'll bail them out and have them cycle out.
That's the best way for the relief valve, is that way?
If we've stopped the wash process, we could reverse course if that case was needed. It's not planned that way, but in an extreme situation, power failure, things like that, we will get people off the property. And to speak to one more thing, you're worried about this striped area. We generally run tall delineator looper, 42-inch loopers.
That's the white plastic things that are...
Whatever color, but yeah, they're the weighted basis, 12-pound weighted basis.
Great.
Just to actually give a delineation for people to see.
Run into them.
Okay.
And just to cover the base, if you're getting folks to get out the slip exit there and go around, but they don't want to leave, they want to get back in the line to get their car washed. So, will you stop them at the entrance so that the emergency vehicles can get in? And will there be enough room for the vehicles then there?
Yes. So we're proactive on a lot of things. If we run into a situation. And again, we don't put new hires in our sites. They have to be a seasoned veteran of the industry. They know how to handle things. I can't explain it all in great detail right now, but in the instances where we've had situations, power outages are the biggest problem. It happens. We bail it out. We can get cars out of the tunnel. We get people out. And it's amazing that if you're calm, people are calm and they understand. And we also hand out, if they need to come back, they can come back and get their car washed on a different day. They don't lose anything. They understand what happens. Okay? I get the worst case scenario stuff. Thank God it's not a common occurrence.
No, I'm sure.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. On the bailout exit, a standard fire truck could make a right there, assuming a car is parked adjacent to the east.
In here?
Yeah, so if there's a car parked, right in the bay, just to the right of that, could a it looks like it's a tight turn.
I think if, and I don't want to speak to the engineer who sorted this out. I don't know if you want to come up, Brian. I believe they were bringing the vehicles in the front.
Yeah.
So we have height clearances in the back that we can get other vehicles through. 9 foot, 9.5 foot wide lanes, tall enough canopies. The truck would come through. Right.
Yeah, the trucks would come through. The truck would come around
hold on a
here.
second.
Well, imagine a scenario where it doesn't, and he's in the back.
Great,
Can he make a right turn going through that?
Bob Bush, I'm sorry, Ed. Bob Bush's question was ensure the turning radius will meet fire department requirements. So I'm assuming, Brian, that's you going to answer that, right?
Yes, we have, and we have provided, and I believe Jay has.
Dan and I met with Fire Marshal Bush earlier
So
this
do you have an
afternoon.
exhibit for all that stuff and your stuff, Brian? I mean, you're the site engineer. This traffic guy's a whole different.
Correct, we have.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got him. Thanks, Dan.
Give me one sec.
Yeah. Dan will show the fire truck turning.
Oh, sure, no, we'll step out of the way. Sorry.
But we met with the fire marshal. He said everything.
Right, I mean, I'd like, that's why I wanted Brian to go first, for him to introduce the site plan.
All right, so we have shown a ladder truck coming in, cycling all the way around the back, coming in, cycling through here. We've actually also shown it where it can come in here, and if it needs to get through this driveway here, it can access all 3 points in here. I think there's a height restriction on it coming in and under the kiosk here. So we spoke with the fire marshal, and I believe the fire marshal was satisfied with it getting here. This is a ladder truck, getting here and then backing back out, as long as we could cycle it in and demonstrate that it could get here, and as a third outlet over here, which we have demonstrated to him.
Okay, so his note says ensure the turning radius will meet fire department requirements.
And I believe he signed off on it,
Yeah,
what we have provided
had a meeting
him.
with him. We haven't uploaded this plan to the view cloud, but he said this looks good and I'll sign off on it, once you.
Did you guys get that yet, Jeremy?
Not yet, that just happened this afternoon.
This was at, I think, 4 o'clock.
So you don't ever envision a truck going all the way east and then making a turn out?
No,
not from there. Imagine he goes into the north, just goes straight across and then left. Goes up there and, can he go out that way?
Yeah, a ladder truck, it depends on the truck. A ladder truck cannot make that turn there, but a ladder truck can back out, much like this will back out.
So either way, a ladder truck is backing out of the space. It can't go out.
Can get on and off, true, that is correct. So if it came in here, and this was discussed with the fire marshal, if it came in here, it could
Get to there.
Park here and then come back and out.
I mean, he says yes, he says yes. He says no, you're back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we'll have the formal, not just my word, his word, but I'm assuming this will get continued by the next session.
Yes. Did you pick that up, right, Karen?
Very good, yeah.
Do you want to just give us a fresh start of the site plan? You designed this thing, right, Brian?
Sure, yeah, well, it was a team effort, but yeah, we had a big hand in it. So, do you mind?
We got like 7 different surveys from you.
Yeah, this is good for the moment. SE1.
Yeah.
So again, for the record, Brian McMahon, Redness and Mead, cited civil engineer and surveyors of record for the property. So yeah, as Jay had mentioned earlier, with the 2-way, 3-lane entry coming in off of the Post Road, cycles cars all the way around here, through the tunnel and out. We did a lot of rearranging some of the site plan efforts, which Matt can talk about in a little bit, for the sidewalks out front in deference to the big trees that we're trying to preserve out there. Can you put SE3? Perfect. And I would like to speak a bit about the stormwater management. I know Joe Canis has prepared his report, which we have responded to.
Just go back to the site plan. Is the driving island where the vacuums are? That's single lane, right?
Here?
Yeah, going out?
It's one way, but it's wider than, you know, it's 20 feet wide, I believe.
So you can't scooch around a car?
You can get past a car. Are you talking about getting, if somebody's parked in the drive aisle, could somebody get around that person to
Maybe
exit?
parked in a drive aisle, can I go around her?
Yes.
Okay.
So with respect to stormwater management, before I speak to that, I wanted to just clarify on FEMA floodplain for the site. Sure. FEMA has mapped, there is a small portion of the site here. The 5 Mile River is about 125 feet east of the property. And FEMA has mapped a portion of it, I'm tracing over it here, has mapped a portion at the southeast corner of the site as being in the 100-year floodplain. As Joe correctly pointed out, and we had done so in our original report, the elevation of the 100-year flood ranges from a low of about 46 near the southeast corner of the property to about elevation 51 on the northeast corner of it. And as it turns out, there is no ground surface on the property at or below elevation 51, the maximum base flood elevation up here. So although it is mapped in the floodplain by FEMA, there's no part of, as a practical matter, there's no part of the site that is below the flood elevation. And what that means is that any of the, with all the improvements we have, including the rain garden on this side of the site, there can be no impacts to water surface elevation in accordance with your regulations, as well as depleting. There'll be no depletion of any floodplain storage for the river. And so as far as stormwater is concerned, basically under current conditions, there's essentially, and do you have our survey?
But Brian, you're putting this solar flower inside the floodplain?
No, actually it's not. The floodplain's over here, so the solar flower will be in the rain garden. It happens to be in a location that is not in the map floodplain.
Okay. Thanks.
But incidentally, if it were, I would suggest that there's no impact of doing so. Do you have our survey? Do you have existing conditions?
You have curb cuts marked.
There you go. That's good. So under existing conditions for drainage, what we have here is a collection of old, frankly deteriorated storm drain structures on the site. It is notable that there is an existing large diameter. It starts out at 24-inch here and goes to 36-inch here storm drain that goes through the site. It happens to go under the building. It is within an easement that is in favor of the state of Connecticut. So there's essentially two directions which water flows from the site, the bulk of the site. Through this, which goes through the Land Rover dealership, and then overland on the east side of the site into a swale that is along the off-ramp from I-95. And they both meet up, they both discharge and meet up and go under the off-ramp and ultimately out to the 5 Mile River to the east. There is a small part of the site that drains out to the Boston Post Road, but it's a fairly inconsequential portion of the site. SE3. But there are no current treatment measures on the site. The catch basins are deteriorated. There's no sumps. I cannot find any evidence of an oil grit separator. Certainly, there's no infiltration systems that we were able to find. And so, under proposed conditions, we are proposing actually to reduce the overall coverage on the site by almost half an acre, by about 20,000 square feet reduction in impervious coverage on the site. As Joe correctly pointed out in his report, and we did in ours, your regulations require that when a building is demolished, that the designer, we assume that under current conditions, that it's essentially in a meadow condition. So we have to compare full build out here as if the existing site were just a meadow. And you can imagine that the change in runoff between those two is significant. On the other hand, we are reducing, as a practical matter, we are reducing the coverage again by 20,000 square feet. So I would point out that without proposing any of the improvements on here that I'll speak about in a second, just by virtue of that, we would be reducing anywhere from 12 to 35%, depending on the storm, just by the reduction in coverage. We'd be reducing the runoff by that much. But again, your regulations require that we assume a meadow condition, which we have. And what we've done is we've tried to honor the same two primary drainage patterns here. And to accommodate your regulations, what we've incorporated into our design are stormwater detention system here in the upper parking lot here for peak control. Infiltration system down here in the queuing lane in front of the kiosk, and on the east side of the site, a rain garden, which will provide water quality for the stormwater going off towards the, continuing to go off towards the off-ramp. We have incorporated an oil grit separator into the right here, into the design. So all of the areas, all of the runoff leaving the site is now being treated either by infiltration, oil grit separator, or rain garden before it leaves the site. And I point out that this is the water recycling facilities that Jay referred to earlier and that Steve can speak to if the commission would so desire. And so the end product of this is that I think that not only has this design reduced runoff significantly from current conditions, but it has also introduced really a significant amount of stormwater enhancements into the plan, into the site, and the result is that it's that the water quality of the runoff post-construction will be significantly enhanced from what it is under current conditions. I did review Joe's report, and we responded to it. I would say, and I'm happy to go down my response letter here, item by item. I would say that.
Yeah, you usually do that for us.
You want to do it? Okay.
Yeah, your November 9th letter?
Yes, I have it right here. So his review comments first was floodplain, show and identify the elevation-based flood boundary on the plan. Just SE1, please. So we have added, it's hard to see here, this line that we have added in response to that is the limit of the floodplain by elevation. You'll note that it is just off the site. It's not on the site, located on the site at all. B, under stormwater management, number 1, he requested an additional spot elevation, which we provided. Number 2, there was a question about the overflow weir width, which we've clarified on a detail on sheet SE7. Number 3, the call out for the rain garden on the drainage and utility plan. Again, there's another clarification about the weir, which we have provided. There's no action required on item number 4. Number 5, there was a question about shifting these. There was a question, yes, right here. There was a question about, we had shown a pipe here that was running parallel to the post road, and Joe's concern was about damage to the root system of those trees, so we split it out there to be more sensitive to that.
Joe's looking out for trees? Wow, that's a new one.
Number 6, provide details for the riprap splash pads, which we've added. Number 7 was an adjusting a call out to a sanitary sewer manhole, which we've done. Number 8, Joe pointed out that the potential conflict in the sanitary sewer run where it crosses the main trunk line here of the storm system, which we've adjusted. And that's a good segue into his number 9, which is, he questions, will the existing storm drainage easement to Condot be extinguished and a new easement drafted to reflect the new drainage alignment? And the answer to that is yes, that process is underway. We are engaged with DOT. I spoke to them today. I'm meeting with them next week. The request is pending for that, so we're working with them on that. But the idea is...
Your request is to extinguish it?
No, the request is, we are requesting to relocate, the existing pipe comes through the site here through an easement. We're gonna keep this.
Yep.
We're gonna keep this, and we're proposing to relocate the pipe around the building, so there won't be a building under, there won't be a pipe under the building anymore. And our plan is to request a similar easement to envelop the relocated pipe. Number 10, question about...
How long does that take, Craig?
It is months. Frankly, what they said is that it could take up to a year, and this is not a technical issue. It's not about flow and inverts. It's about lawyers and appraisals and all that.
Yeah. Not appraisals, come on,
Number 10 was review the rim elevation. It was a typo, which we've corrected. Joe asked for us to show, number 11 asked us to show access manholes for the infiltration system, which we have included. Number 12, the outlet from infiltration is a negative slope, and that is intentional. His question wasn't intentional. It is intentional. We want that to drain back into the infiltration system. We don't want water to be trapped in the structures. Number 13, confirm the hydraulic grade line of the on-site storm sewers upstream of the storm chamber. We've done that. We provided those calculations. I have noted to Joe that the oil grit separator will operate under a surcharge, which they can and commonly do. C, sediment and erosion control. Joe has endorsed our erosion control plan. There was no request there. D, landfilling and regrading. We have now provided the quantity of earthwork. It's about a net 2,900 cubic yards of fill.
You're bringing it in?
Yeah, I mean, we'll need to bring material onto the site.
Mostly for topsoil, right?
Well, and also with the berm, there's some grading here with the rain garden and filling up on the ramp coming up.
Are they taking out all the existing asphalt now and replacing it? Or are you gonna...
Yeah, I mean, all of the asphalt will be gone, but I will say that for erosion control purposes, I think it's good, and I think we will work with the team to stage the construction as such to preserve as much of that during construction as long as possible, so we're not creating loose dirt surfaces before we have to.
Okay. Do we have to allow them to crush this stuff on site? Is that going to come up? Because the building's coming down and there's all this asphalt that's going away.
I guess that's a question for Brian, in terms of, you thought out that far in terms of?
Well, not about crushing on site or not, frankly, but I don't know that we have to crush the asphalt on site. I don't see that.
I'm just asking, because if you're ripping up all that asphalt, then you find 6 layers under there.
Yeah, well, we did some test pits out there. We didn't see, a lot of thick asphalt out there, I would say.
Okay.
But, there may be a concrete slab or two that has to be hammered up on the site. I don't see, crushing the asphalt as being.
Whatever saves you money.
Yeah.
Whatever's easier.
Okay, so number 2, D2, provide a detail for the proposed riprap slope, which we are proposing right in this area where it gets tight to the property line and just for grading purposes, which we've done. And his last question under miscellaneous, at that same location, he questioned whether a guide rail was warranted, and I think it was a good question. I think it is. I think it's a good idea to have one.
Where is that?
It's right here. Just given the grading coming up this slope and into the tunnel, and it's the proximity to the property line, we have a riprap slope here, and we've added a guide rail just for that short stretch along there.
Because that's Range Rover there, right?
That's right.
So if this thing flooded, it would flood out Range Rover, right? Because they're below grade? They're below you?
Well, first of all, I don't think it'll flood.
It's not going to flood at all, right?
Yeah, we're reducing flow. But it's going to Range Rover now. It's going to, the easement comes through in a high-capacity pipe right through the Range Rover property line.
Okay. So. Are you good? You good?
I'm good.
I want to open up to the community. We haven't really had any questions for anybody. We kind of did it backwards. We usually do the site plan first, and the traffic we usually save you for last. But that's okay. Any questions on the site plan at this point in time?
The only thing that I would recommend or request is that, do we hear from Joe very quickly?
We're gonna hear from Joe next, before we let.
Immediately thereafter, since that whole list is fresh in our minds,
Yep.
for him to just say, yep, 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 or I still need clarity on point 2.
Yep. You good?
Yeah, we'll hear from Joe.
Good, okay. You're good, right?
I'm good.
Joe Canis, you're up, brother. Greg, we'll get to you, man. You're the most important. You put these other guys in front of us. I really want to speak to Bruce, too. It's the first car wash this guy's ever done doing, right? Guy's sitting here, he's in the front row. You don't let him talk? Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Joseph Canis. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, principal engineer at Ty and Bond. We were retained by the commission to review the stormwater management, floodplain management, sediment erosion control, and land filling and regrading aspects of the application. So we issued our report on November 2nd, and as you've already heard from Brian, that most of our comments are fairly minor in nature. From a stormwater management perspective, this concept is fantastic because it accomplishes a lot of things that we look for as stormwater managers. Right? We look at reduction in impervious cover, water quality. We also look at reducing volume through infiltration, trying to recharge the groundwater, and this hits all those marks. So from a stormwater management perspective, we're very comfortable that the project is headed in the right direction. Based on Brian's responses tonight, I'm very comfortable with those, and I believe that they have addressed all our outstanding comments. And we'll write a letter to that effect to close out our report once I download the plans and take a closer look at them. But I'm satisfied with the way those have been addressed.
Okay, now, one of the things that I want to ask, 1 second, Amy, is when you read some of the documentation, wherever it came from, like they're reusing the dirty water to clean the undercarriage of the car, right? So you recycle water. I guess that gets cleaned in some fashion. Are we then cleaning out some sediment control thing? Because you can't use Amy's water, Mike's water, my water to clean the undercarriage. Eventually you got to clean it out.
My understanding, right, is that the water is recycled in a separate process from the stormwater. Right, so there are probably drains inside the car wash. It's been a long time since I've worked on one, but my understanding it's all like internal within the facility. So the stormwater outside is a completely separate process that's managed, right? Why there's a different chamber system. There's no interconnection between the water recycling units and the stormwater system.
Okay, so you didn't look at the inside water recycling stuff.
No, yeah, I didn't look at that in any great detail.
Okay.
I understand that DPW is looking at that from a sanitary sewer perspective.
So how are we going to deal with that? Is there like a management plan to clear anybody? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere, Joe. Amy's got a ton of questions.
No, I'm good.
So Joe's correct. I mean, and Steve, if the commission wishes, could explain more about the details of the recycling system. But that is not tributary to the storm system. That will be tributary to the sanitary sewer system. And the project, like any project, we worked on many at Fairfield across the street, and we filed for registration under Connecticut Deep General Permit for that type of wastewater. The same will be true here. There'll be a filing for registration under the same permit for this site here, but it goes to the sanitary sewer. It's separate from the storm sewer altogether.
So is there a management plan to clean?
There is, and it's required as part of that Connecticut Deep registration. Usually that doesn't come till 3 months before construction, but yes, there is a management plan that is required as part of it.
So there's a management plan for the sanitary sewer, stormwater management, and then another one for the interior management?
Correct, yeah. There will be a regular stormwater management for the rain garden, the infiltration system, detention system, et cetera. But as far as the water recycling system, that will fall under the Connecticut Deep General Permit, and there will be a separate management plan with that.
Okay. Questions for you good?
Are the contaminants removed from the site?
I think I'll let Steve speak to the recycling.
Keep it as tight as I can. Hello again. Okay, so as stated, the water treatment process for the building is a completely separate system, and it is contained inside the building. As far as processing water, there is underground storage tanks outside, which is commonplace We use a proprietary built system for each location. We don't buy something off the shelf. We use things that are built for the type of water we need, different types of water. We use fresh water, we soften it. The reject water from soft water is used in the process. We don't throw it away like it can be in many other places. We take our water, everything that's in the trench in the wash process goes out into settling tanks. That gets brought back through a multitude of filters. We can have a large number of gallon storage underground. Now, when we have those tanks cleaned out, we don't clean them out ourselves. We hire a local company to come in, suck them out, chain of custody, the whole 9 yards.
Now, where are these tanks?
They'll be out in the parking lot underground. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, we're representing a six tank, 2,000 gallon per tank underground storage, far beyond what any other operator is currently using.
You're doing 120 cars an hour, you better.
Well, it's not, we want to make sure that we're using enough water. So our goal is to use 70 to 90% less water per vehicle compared to what everybody else is doing, so that we're managing the resource properly. In order to do that, you have to have a number of tanks to get your settling done.
Okay. And so that's the management plan you're talking about, where those things get empty. Does that answer your question, Jamie?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
We don't use dirty water to clean the car. It's all processed.
Say it again?
We don't use dirty water to clean the car. It's all processed and filtered.
Okay.
So,
I just read something that said the undercarriage, it gets cleaned with recycled
reclaimed water, yes.
Reclaimed?
Reclaimed water.
Okay.
You wouldn't drink it, but it's definitely clean enough to clean. Thank you.
All right. Joe? Joe's good? Okay.
Yep.
How about Bruce Beinfeld? Can we
thank
hear
you.
from him? What kind of design is this Cadillac?
I'm Bruce Beinfeld from Beinfeld Architecture. This slide is showing just a basic plan of the building, 141 feet long by 36 feet wide. It's got a small office and a mezzanine at this end for extra storage, and the wash bay runs through here. So in terms of the design of the exterior of the building, we came up with a variety of options that we presented to the Architectural Review Board as a way of showing the building that we presented to them back on, I think, October 16th. And what the building that we presented on October 16th was just a very simple rectangular box with a exterior skin similar to the Land Rover dealership, a metal composite skin. And in looking at some of the other alternatives that we had developed and shared with the ARB, which were more sculptural in character, they asked us to. They said at this location on the post road, they were comfortable with a building that was a little bit more aggressive architecturally, we'll say. So the underlying goal was to come up with a simple, elegant, and slightly provocative and slightly disruptive design, and that was in support of Cloud 10's Smart Wash being slightly disruptive within the car wash arena and sort of a new way of looking at things. As a result of that process, the very simple rectangular building that we had presented on October 16th, they said, well, you can go further with that. So where we ended up tonight was taking that building and tilting it so that one end of the building is approximately 30 feet above the ground, and the other end is 16 feet. So that gives it, a little bit of a sculptural, provocative feeling. And we kept the building very simple because it's set back 130 feet from the post road and seen through, I think there might be another rendering of the, yeah, so this is a rendering from from the post road. You can see that there's the existing mature trees, then there's 2 rows of the vacuum apparatus, and then the building in the background. So based on having all of that activity between the road and the building, we wanted the building to be very simple. So based on that, it's that's how the design evolved into this slightly this tilted box.
It's going to go like that?
Yeah, so it's 16 feet high on one end, 30 feet on the other end. There's Matt Pop will get into the landscaping, but at the base of the building, it's going to be continuously uplit so that in the evening hours, and that lighting is totally adjustable. It'll have a glow to it, and the skin is a aluminum composite skin, again similar to what's on the Land Rover dealership down the street.
What about the Mini dealership, Mini Cooper's down the block?
What about the Mini?
That one's like a metal skin too.
Yeah.
So it's similar to, because you can't really see the Land Rover building, that one's in the back.
The
other one, the other Land Rover towards the road.
What about
the new Land Rover?
Oh no, you can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the dealership here in terms of what the building is modeled after, not the building behind this. That building behind, it's significant. The building behind this is significant in that it totally blocks the view from I-95 of this building. So it really can only be seen from the post road.
Okay. You good?
Yep.
Any questions for Bruce? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Matt Pop. Then there's who did the luminary study. There's another guy. There's some luminary plan.
Disregard that because we have a different light fixture.
Say again?
Disregard that because we have a different light fixture that was approved by ARB.
Okay.
So,
Throw that one out.
here I prepared the Matt Pop, landscape architect, environmental land solutions. Prepared the landscaping plan. The most probably significant thing on when you get to the site is the street trees. In the far western corner, there's a large willow oak, maybe one of the biggest ones in the state. And then when you go along the road, there's different oaks, mainly pin oaks, and some other willow oaks. Those are in maybe some state of disrepair. There's a lot of dead branches in some of those. So 2 of those trees come out here. And then there's another, actually there's 3 that come out here. And there's another one right over here that's coming out, that's right adjacent to a light pole, a utility pole. So in total, I think we're going to have about 4 or 5 that come out along the streetscape. We're replacing those with, again, some new oaks along the streetscape. The other maybe significant tree is a sycamore. Down here in the corner, you don't really see it that much, so we're going to remove a Norway maple adjacent to it so it kind of stands out. We have that smart flower. Here we kind of want to keep the focal point, so we have a little gap coming through to see that. Again, that's in the rain garden. The question regarding the sidewalk, currently the sidewalk's right up against the road. We were trying to figure out maybe do we offset it a couple of feet from the road and keep the sidewalk on the road, but then it gets into the roots of the existing trees. So we thought, let's bring it into the site. So the sidewalk is, maybe 18 feet from the edge of the road here. Over here it's a little bit more, maybe like 20, 22 feet. So again, you're well away from the road, which I think is nice as a safety factor.
So we're rerouting the sidewalk to be interior to the site?
Yes, yep. Let's see, along the perimeter, we have some red maples coming around, some red maples over here, birch trees kind of in the center. In the front of the building, basically have kind of a row of ornamental grasses, grow about 5 feet in height, kind of kept it simple. There's some talk, A or B, do we increase the height of the grasses here and keep it low at this end? But I think we settled on just keeping it simple all the way across the facade. The light fixture, it's not on this plan, but it's a kind of, it's called the indirected. So the light actually gets shined up to a cap, and then it's deflected down, and then that'll be 3000 K warm tone. So again, we'll get you a foot candle plan on that too.
So this thing's getting replaced?
Yep. Yeah, again, that was a fixture that they didn't, yeah. And also, we're proposing to run along the sidewalk right in front of the building, some low bollards, because that it was, when you look at that plan, it was a little dark right along that walkway. Okay, here we go. Yep, here's the light fixture we're proposing. It's 12 feet to the base, maybe about another, 28 inches or so. Oop. Maybe we go back again. There. So the light gets shined up to a cap, and it gets redirected down. So
how tall is that in total? 13 feet?
12 feet to the base, and probably another, maybe 30 inches to the top.
Oh, really?
So maybe
14, 15 feet?
Yeah, I would say maybe, 14 feet to here, maybe the cap, maybe 14 and a half. So I think there's about 14 of them throughout, scattered throughout the site. We did, from that plan that you have, that's good, that's outdated, there was a fixture kind of in the, maybe we go to the site plan, in my plan. There was a pole kind of right here, so we, after thinking about it, when you drive in, I didn't want the pole to be blocking the view of the building, so we kind of spaced them out a little bit further so that the pole doesn't block the building when you're driving in. So, and I did work on another car wash before. Bruce might not have, but I have. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Matt?
So can you just itemize where these locations of these new lights are going to be? Just point to them.
Oh, they're okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and there's one more.
So these are the 15-foot lights, 12 feet plus 30 inches.
14 feet plus 30 inches.
No, 12 feet. Plus,
12 feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
plus, yeah.
And how long will it? What are their hours that they'll be illuminated?
So,
yeah, we have to talk about time and hours of operation.
The hours for the lighting.
Well, so
yeah,
site lighting is different than.
You got to.
Yeah. But
the site lighting will be 24/7. As Brendan.
So this is dark property.
Okay. Yeah, and Brendan was educating us earlier this evening. Since they purchased the property, the new owner has educated us. Since they purchased the property earlier this summer, they've had a couple of intruders coming to the site. Because it's pitch dark.
Yep.
So just from a security and site safety perspective, they want to make sure that there's safe lighting on throughout the evening, and that's what those lights that Matt has located will provide the property. So
the only thing we got to talk about is, it happens all the time, and you've been on the applications too, where like BMW and you're not in a residential area, you're nowhere near a residential area, but BMW, the schools, some of the other places where the lighting is tripped by motion, it turns on and turns off. I don't know what you're thinking about keeping the lighting on at night, but it's going to go into the hours of operation. You're like 7 and 9 and 7 days a week or something.
Yeah, we would propose as early as 7 a.m. and never later than 9 p.m. So we do have some seasonal hours. 9 p.m. in the wintertime is typically too late. It's dark, it's cold, so we trim back the hours. We haven't market tested what people are doing here yet, but we will. So
those hours you're talking about are on the outside maximums.
Site lighting would be dark hours.
Right. But you're talking about hours of operation.
We're talking about two things, hours of operations and how lit this thing's gonna be at night.
So at night, any service lighting would be off or dimmed to whatever percentage is deemed appropriate. Due to the setback of the property, which is, we're roughly 130 or 40 feet from the road, it's inviting problems to some degree. And we want to make sure that site lighting is of a proper illumination to prevent anything. We have issues right now at the site, and it's much closer to the road, and people are breaking into it, and we fenced it in, and they're still breaking into it.
We have the same issues with like H&L Chevrolet and BMW and Land Rover, it's the same stuff, but I don't think those lights are on 24/7.
We wouldn't have lights on 24/7. We'd have lights, we do photo cells to do all that stuff anyway, and do have timers in some locations to control lighting. But security lighting needs to be on when we're closed or at appropriate timing based on daylight. But site service lighting can be dimmed all the way down to off if needed.
Okay, and then with regards to this thing looking like iconic and the uplighting against the building, how long is it, what's that supposed to be on?
Honestly, I'm not sure if we've discussed it, but we would want the building to look, you know, if it's iconic, I think it should have some
from 16 feet to 30 feet. You could,
yeah.
I know that was something that was sort of recently introduced by the ARB, and we're going to be preparing a night rendering. That was one thing they asked for, an evening rendering, so we'll have that. I think that
just think about that, because that's the same exact thing with Hollow Tree self-storage.
Right. Yeah, so
These things this thing's going to be visible from the highway.
No. Yeah, I mean, the trees are pretty lush, but, you know, but that night rendering, I think, will depict. What the instruction we were given, you know, it's not supposed to be a spaceship. It's supposed to be, you know, warm and inviting.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. The last item, and you might be the guy, these vacuum cleaner fixtures, I've seen those at other car washes in Mount Kisco, and they always look a complete disarray. Do you have any of these things that have this many vacuum cleaners in your portfolio?
Sure. I'm currently finishing construction on a site in Pennsylvania with 44 vac stations.
No, and existing. I don't care about stuff on construction.
Yeah, we do. We have sites that have multiple vacuums, as few as 11 and as many as I'll now have 44, but 27, 20,
but
16.
Are they this visible from the street?
Yes, it's by design. So it's for user ability, people coming in, they want to see what's available. It is all part of the design, but it's also for the flow of the property to function as it needs to make everything as comfortable. And this is designed for comfort and safety more than anything. Is to make it the easiest project for someone to go and visit.
Right, but I can't get my car vacuumed unless I get it washed.
Correct.
Yeah. Again, when I think when we introduced Cloud 10, you know, we talked about the market research that they do, and one of the things that they found in researching customer needs and customer demands is that folks feel safer or more comfortable, I should say, vacuuming their vehicle, you know, towards the street rather than behind a building. So providing, you know, that security for customers is clearly important. And, you know, Brian McMahon, we can get Brian back up, but in looking at how you lay out this site, it's a big site, but it's kind of a, you know, funky shaped site, to really get the drive aisles working properly, to get the queuing capacity that we talked about. You know, this is really the layout that we were led to, and I think, I forget who said it, but this is not the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth draft. This is I think April or March when we were first laying this thing out. So this is just really the most appropriate for the property.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead, George.
Just occurs to me, I assume with all the AI, but I'll ask, are there pay machines for the vacuum? Or
that's part of your...
Part of the cost of the car wash.
Because you can't...
I know.
You're not putting quarters in.
Right. Yeah. No quarters.
Okay.
We're way past that.
Thought I'd make that clear.
Before we go on, because we still need to hear from Greg, is anybody going to talk about the signage?
Yeah, so the signage, sorry, yeah, please go ahead. As part of our conversation with ARB, what they had encouraged us, because Bruce, they were so pleased with the building that Bruce designed, what they wanted to see was a signage package that was really more in keeping with the architectural elements of the building. So and I mentioned this to the chair of the ARB, I should have conveyed it to Fred and Jeremy before, we're withdrawing the signage piece of our application. We'll bring signage as a separate package. I think we've done that at a couple other projects too, where site plan hopefully gets approved first, and if we earn your approval, we'll come back for the appropriate signage.
So the signage that's on the building, which is humongous.
Yes.
That's not on Bruce's building. That's not approved, right?
No, that's not approved. That's for concept only. And I think ARB, and we did too. We recognize when you're creating what we believe is an iconic and unique building. We're going to have to be creative and thoughtful on signage, and so we're going to explore that as a separate process.
So how does that work? It's going to put no signs for a while.
Yeah, usually what happens is it catches up if they get all their necessary approvals while they're working on getting the building permits and all that. Usually it's a meeting with the ARB somewhere in there, and the signage gets caught up pretty quick.
I think if our clients have anything to say about it, again, if we earn the site plan approval, we'll be on signage quite quickly afterwards.
Okay. We still need to hear from Greg in Hardesty, Hanover. So what's that?
I have a parking traffic question, so I'm good for this.
Okay, so any more questions for these guys so far? Greg, you ready? You're the man. Doesn't go anywhere without you, man. You in the police department.
I usually get blamed for that, and you can't get around.
You don't blame for anything. Doing your job.
We'll keep this up so I can talk to it in a minute. Greg Del Rio for the record, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, director of transportation engineering for Hardesty and Hanover in the Northeast. We reviewed the traffic study and the site plan, and we provided the peer review memo. We also met with them a couple of weeks ago with the team to go over some of the comments. They're addressing the comments. We have not gotten officially the response to comments yet, but I'm not anticipating anything shocking from this. I think, long story short, everything's going to work. And there's just a couple of tweaks, mostly with the site plan. But I'll talk about traffic first, and then I'll address some of the site plan issues, and then open it up for questions, or just pop them in as I go along. I'll try and be concise and focus on your questions.
Yeah, because you have to sign off on the site plan too.
Correct. So as far as traffic goes, let's put everything in perspective a little bit. I know we're not comparing it to the prior land use, but it does, pretty much generate less traffic than the prior land use. I don't know what the exact square footage is, but I'm pretty confident it would come out to that. So just a big picture.
It's less traffic than a restaurant?
Than the type of restaurant and the size of the restaurant that was there prior. It should be in that order of magnitude. That said, again, with the number of trips in any direction, yeah, it's 68 in, 68 out in the peak hours on a Saturday, and that's the peak time. Once you divide that to the left and to the right, and the ins and outs, you're talking about no more than 35 trips in any direction, in any intersection. As soon as you get away from this intersection, then, of course, that dissipates. They didn't mention it, but they also did not take any pass-by credits. For this type of land use, you would, typically take a pass-by credit, so that's very conservative. Typically you're allowed in the state of Connecticut up to 20% for pass-by credits, which means the cars that are already on the road, you're going to Costco, and you're also going to make a stop at the car wash, right? So it's not a single-purpose trip to and from the local network for every vehicle that's going to the car wash, but they didn't take that credit, so it's from a traffic impact perspective, it's conservative. They're adding that intersection, so we'll see what the results of that one intersection comes out to be. As far as consolidating the curb cuts, we always look to do that if we can and it makes sense. And certainly in this case, it does make sense. Even the restaurant probably would have worked well
with one curb cut. And then, of course, aligning it with a street opposite it makes a lot of sense as well. It certainly increases your safety. It addresses some of the safety concerns of sight lines, of judging gaps that can come. And as Chris mentioned, there are a lot of the types of crashes that get mitigated by realigning where the curb cut is with the road and adding the signal, so that you now are only really conflicting with the pedestrians that are crossing the street and the traffic that's coming in the opposite direction as far as your turning movements go. So that also improves flow in and out of the site as well. We'll get to this signal issue a little bit later. Well, I'll say a couple of words now while it's on top of my mind. I agree with Marissa that this is going to be a privately funded, built, designed, constructed. That's going to cut down a lot of that red tape and a lot of the time that we're mentioning. That said, it's also their risk, right? You're going to probably make a condition that you can't have this occupied and functioning unless the signal's there. They're not going to get their encroachment permit until the signal's there. So that's their risk as far as I see it. So I think that addresses that. Putting the crosswalk, the signal also helps with the transit trips, which I always look for, especially when there's bus stops right there and nearby. It's very likely that there will be some transit users working here. So that's a benefit to everybody. And certainly we all know that Boston Post Road and the buses there are very active at their bus trips with all the types of service industry that's along the corridor. Some of the comments, again, that they're going to address is you mentioned before, the no-build projects and what's happening with them, so they're going to include that in their update. One thing that wasn't mentioned, I did speak offline, that they were going to provide some data about a seasonal adjustment. So first of all, they did something that we always like to do if you can do it, right? ITE is the go-to. So the ITE trip generation manual, it does have this type of land use in there. But if you can do comparables and you do have a special use like this, it's always nice if you can get real data. So they not only got local real data from a car wash, but they also got real data from Wilkes-Barre, I believe, their facility in Pennsylvania. I think that's important because it's a cold weather state, so you'd have winter. So we did ask them just to do a seasonal check to make sure, because they did their counts in spring. Some research that we did shows that car washes peak in the winter, right? Kind of makes sense with, you're not going to wash your own car in the winter. You got salt, you have all the other snow and other factors that maybe it peaks. So they're going to provide data that shows that the spring is equivalent or greater than, some of the other seasons. That said, again, their counts from their facility is way higher than ITE manuals. So again, just showing that traffic-wise, it's a very conservative estimate, so we're very comfortable with that, which also impacts the queuing concerns that we were having as well, right? So the analysis is done on a fairly peaking condition. I think I addressed all the traffic impacts there. Let me just check my notes here. Passed by Chris.
So they're going to add in the Chick-fil-A, the Target to Walmart to Target, the Costco with the Tire Center.
Correct. And the AM peak to Wegmans. So, yep.
Do we care if Target's got a big grocery store component?
It will. If that's going to be there, and the Walmart does not have a supermarket component now.
It had a small one.
Yeah, so they'll do the comparison there if it's needed. I don't know what the specifics are. I thought it was pretty much a replacement in kind and a name change. So yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, they would.
I would just check out.
There is a different code and a different trip gen.
The situation that when we talk to the city of Norwalk and what our response letter will have.
Just got to go to the podium. That's all.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
I'll hang out with you over here.
Yep. So you're aware of what's going on inside Target, was the answer.
What my answer is that when we reached out to the city of Norwalk, which was the direction that we had, is to ask them what's going on, what are you doing with it, and full disclosure, we're also the peer review consultant for the city of Norwalk, so we have to review any traffic study that they submit. So for instance, we reviewed Wegmans, so I'm fairly confident I know the traffic for Wegmans. The Target facility, they are viewing it, and they're very strict on their traffic studies, they're viewing it as a direct replacement. There is obviously a fan favorite associated with Target, but particularly related to the supermarket use, if you actually look at that area as well, you got Wegmans across the street, you got Target having a supermarket component, but then you also have ShopRite and other supermarkets. So if this was a destination and going to be the only way to get something quick on your way home, we would probably have factored that into traffic, but that's a large piece of why the Target isn't being analyzed as a traffic component. They have their consultant, no one is doing a traffic study for that site. So I just want to clarify so that you don't get something different than what we're submitting. We are adding Wegmans, but we are responding with the information we got from the city of Norwalk, which is stating that several of these other sites don't generate traffic beyond the background growth that we've also assumed. So we've assumed a general background growth for growth of traffic that happens over years. And you could assume that the increase in, ooh, it's a Target, will be covered in our background growth because that's also a conservative growth number.
And you don't care about Chick-fil-A's new drive-through lanes or whole street mass?
I'm dying to see Chick-fil-A work and actually be able to get more cars into it in its own
these guys
right.
are designing like Chick-fil-A.
Yes, but you know, I think Chick-fil-A drew a lot before, and if they can handle more, great, but Chick-fil-A is a pass-by use. So again, I'm going home, I'm gonna grab Chick-fil-A, so it doesn't generate more traffic on the road near us where we have to get cars out into the road.
Got it, okay.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. So I think that addresses most of the traffic impact part of it and what's happening outside on the roadway network. Now we'll talk a little bit about the site plan itself. It's modeled after the Wilkes-Barre. If you Google the Wilkes-Barre site, which we did, and took a look at it, so that tells me that they like the way that works, right? They didn't really, I mean, it really is very, very similar in layout to what they have in Wilkes-Barre, right? So if you're running a business, if it's working, they didn't do a lot of tweaks to that operation for this site. That said,
it's been open for how long?
I don't know how long that's been.
3 years and 3 months.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Man in the back.
I think they have about 24 vacuums there, and I think what do we have here? 34?
27.
27. So it's very similar in size, and it's also on a very busy road, Wilkes-Barre Boulevard, I believe it's on. It has a lot of similarities. The access is very different, and its connection, it has 2 long driveways that reach back, but that said, the internal circulation is what we're focusing on, and it's very similar. The one issue that most of the issues came up, and the other thing I want to mention, just as a car wash use, a self-use car wash, right, is a lot easier to keep going in you know, the progression and its you know, predictability of the processing rate than an attended car wash, right? Because one person may have a lot of vacuuming to do, a lot of cleaning, to get it in the trunk and everything else, and doing the tires. This is pay, get in line, go, right? So it's a lot more predictable as far as the processing rates go. A lot less issues to deal with. They answered the question about how they would clear it out. They do have the clear out lane to do that, which is good. We had that comment about this conflict. It seems like they're still pushing back a little bit on that. I think in general what I would say is I'm okay, and if it becomes a problem, we close it, and you got to go through. And we're back to it, you know, that's our solution. If there is somehow some conflicts that start to happen here and this doesn't flow quite smoothly, right? Because this is going to turn green, and we have, you know, a very short, you know, you can see what's happening, right? You go, I go, who's going, right? So it's a little bit of a conflict there, but not bad.
So
the other one is
two conflicts going out. You have a left-hand turn going out, and you have
this movement and these guys' movement. Some of them may be crisscrossing, right?
Yeah. Did you look at any? That's my question. Did you look at how it might internally queue if you have that crisscrossing happening inside of the roundabout, right? For people who want to make a right from the left side and people who want to make a left from the right side.
Right.
Is that looked at at all?
Yeah, so if you think about it, right, it's, I don't know what I forget what the cycle length is going to be. It's 120 or
whatever it is. So even if it's 120, the longest, that's 30 opportunities to get 68 cars out. So on average, you're talking 2, 3, 4 cars a cycle.
Right.
Right, so it's not incredibly busy. If you remember, they said they have about a 30-second headway coming through here, but a lot of them are then going to the vacuum cleaners. That starts to disperse it. If you're not going to it, those are the ones that are going here. So in that, 2-minute cycle, you've got about 4 cars at tops that are, coming out at you in that direction. So,
do you know if the signal is going to have a left turn indicator on it, or is it just going to be red, green?
No,
yellow?
It's green ball, right? And yeah. So it only has one phase for you to get out.
Out. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I would have washed my car, then go to the vacuum cleaner, and I'm heading southbound. I'm heading
That's what I'm
west.
saying. Most of the traffic is going to make a left out of that intersection, like 80% of it.
It's about an even split.
Well, and the other reason there's not an arrow there is because we don't want to take time off of Post Road, right, where all your traffic is. I said the other reason that there's not a left there and there's not multiple phases on the driveway is we have the space to hold our cars. And we don't have so many cars, as you can see, that there is going to be massive conflict hanging there the entire time. So we want to keep, the reason the traffic signal works so well to also fix West Norwalk Road is West Norwalk Road needs a lot of time allocated to get cars out of that road. Post Road needs a lot of time. There might be a left turn lane on Post Road to get onto West Norwalk Road. But we don't want to be, if we have 2 phases here, we're basically giving more time to the car wash, which is great. We can get everybody off our site, but it's not great for Post Road and West Norwalk Road. So we don't want a left turn lane. It will also eliminate the conflicts because a left turn lane would have come up before the green ball. And so then someone's trying to really get past the other guy and they're blocking it. This is all going to go green at the same time. The frequency of, again, when you're cycling out of vacuums and the 68 cars, the opportunities for the conflict there, and because at least this is also not 2-way, it's less than a standard T intersection. So if you think about how easy it is to drive a standard T intersection, this is not more challenging because one direction is one way.
Do we have the predicted rates for how many are expected to use the vacuums and whether that differs morning and evening?
That's you got pedestrians. They got pedestrians.
It's roughly that. It's not what everybody thinks it is.
75% of people choose to vacuum, and then 25% will.
No.
Well, about 25% choose to
We use it's a low percentage.
I mean, that's why I question, do you need 34 of those things?
Well, what before I start talking, I don't want to.
No, go ahead. They're asking a question.
No. The reason why this thing is designed really to make sure that no one ever has, that peak queuing exhibit that you saw, our goal is to make sure that never happens, right? And that will never happen because we are providing, really designing, to make an analogy, designing for the 100-year flood, right? We're over-engineering this, we're overthinking this to make sure that the customer always gets out of here quickly and effectively. I know, Mr. Chairman, you've asked about, will people really want to vacuum? That just doesn't seem like a positive in this package. What Cloud 10 has found is that, while maybe you're vacuuming on your own or cleaning on your own, what you're gaining back is time in your day, right? And I think you alluded to that a little bit too. When you're getting your interior cleaned by someone else, the last time I got it wasn't my car, when I had my wife's car washed, that was my entire lunch hour. That was it. Waiting in line and watching the guys do their thing.
You're emailing people when you're sitting on their phone. You're working.
I'm bugging these guys. Yeah. Never billed to the Cloud 10 team. But all kidding aside, the time that people get back by having the choice of doing that interior and how long and when they need to do it and how intensely, that's something that is another value add to folks, and we think will make this a success. And the last thing I'll say is that the ARB, when we were there, both in October and just earlier this evening, thought the vacuums were kind of a cool. It's cool to have some of the tech showing on the outside. That's part of what makes this different. It's part of what makes it unique. So we think that's a really important piece to maintain as we've got.
I'm going to ask Liz if she vacuums her own car. Go ahead, Greg. But you're
sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I was only going to make one more. I was only going to make one more.
I got one question while you're still up there, Jay. So you envision 75% of the traffic going out the westward exit that way and then out? since
You're bypassing, you're not vacuuming the car.
you're not vacuuming, so you're not gonna go all the way around it, right? You're just gonna
You'd
go
be-
out.
Okay, so you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think.
I appreciate everyone's professional opinions and understandings, but I live in the world of car washing. I've been doing it for
You're the
35,
ops
6 years.
guy.
So, very quickly, people will drive through the vacuum farm to exit the property because it's a very natural turn coming out of the facility. We do it now. I have a site, the Wilkes-Barre site has 50% more traffic than this particular location we're talking about, and that site has 7 less vacuums. And people come out and cycle through it. Sometimes they drive around, yes.
What's your percentage of members?
I generally don't share that information. That's a business, and we're.
No, I get, but my contention is the people that do this all the time and are members, they know they're gonna turn left when they have to go left on the post road. They're gonna go left and go shoot and go left, and the guys that are gonna go right are gonna go to the right and go, they're already gonna pre-get in their lane.
Yeah.
By choosing which way they're going.
I understand that, but again, I can't predict what all of that is.
Yeah.
But
if you have a high incidence of repeat customers,
Yeah.
I guess,
Like
that know
twice a
your
week.
site, I guess, whether the question is
But
proprietary
we do that
or
everywhere,
not.
right? Anywhere we go, we do
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, they'll get the cadence and the flow.
At Home Depot, I never pull
Of
in
the
the first driveway.
Exactly.
I should take the second driveway. But the percentages vary season to season. I mean, this business is seasonal. When we are most efficient is when we're most busy. And our customers don't vacuum as often, we're doing more vehicles. Again, it's hard to predict each individual market, but this traffic flow is super comfortable and will work. I know you're taking my word for it, we're the applicant, or not taking my word for it, we're the applicant, the traffic engineers understand all of this stuff. But all of this design is to make it for all of you to be super comfortable going through. You may not want to take a left every time, you may want to take a right every single time, you might switch it up. I don't know what's going to happen, but either way, and you have right of way if you go straight out and take a left at the light, you have right of way, there's no stop bar there. You'll make those determinations when you're there. It's very hard to predict any of that. I don't think anyone here can predict what a customer is going to do at any particular time. But to your point, I thank you for saying that. An automated car wash is much more efficient in time and safety than you getting out of your vehicle.
Right, agreed. You're not going to argue with there, but you are getting out of your vehicle if you're using those 34 vacuum things.
But you're out of the way.
Yeah, I'm out of the way if I'm in the end, but not if I'm at the beginning. Okay.
So this is way overproduction. And I build sites that are half this size and do very similar car counts. So.
And you guys have how many across the country now?
We're currently operating 4. We pulled out of some of the states.
No, I think you said, don't you have 12?
We had 12 total. We built a whole bunch and sold some off and got hyper-focused in certain markets.
So you built 12 of them in 4 states, and now you only own 4 of them?
Yeah. Okay. We're focused on 3 states right now.
And Connecticut's one of them.
Connecticut's one of them.
There you go. Wilkes-Barre is another one.
Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, some other markets in Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
Okay.
So.
Let's let Greg finish.
Yeah, just have one more point to make.
On
It
the
is a little bit of a site plan change. Maybe pull this back a little bit to allow the circulation for the errant, or not only the errant, but, oh my God, look at that long line, I don't want to deal with that right now. Yeah. Right?
Do you pull back that island that we were talking about earlier?
So you might not see that from the street, but if I come in here and I see that this is backed up to here, or for whatever reason, you get that last second call that says, I need you home right now.
Right.
Right? That would be a nice minor, I don't see any issue, unless somebody else does, with pulling this island back a little bit to allow for
Wouldn't
that.
we need some kind of stripage to
allow
let
for that
cars
movement?
that are
Yeah, I mean,
exiting
it's
know
just
that
striping.
people might be just
Yeah,
making a hard
this
left
whole
there?
thing really, this isn't a traffic plan.
Right.
The traffic plan probably has the line coming through here to,
Because they might not be expecting cars making that hard, I don't want to come in here, exit.
Again, remember, they're coming out of here every 30 seconds. You gotta, it's not a free flow, cars coming at you. It's a pretty controlled environment.
See, Craig, you gotta watch this. So which islands do you want to cut back?
Right here.
Okay, and then what about the other one?
If that's possible. Which is the other one?
The one right above it, the triangle right above it.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
This one. They were worried about the turn.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't, it's not dimensioned here, but yeah, even if it was 24, maybe a little more than that, right? To allow
Because
for
that's
that
where
point.
you're coming out of the tunnel and you're coming into the site at that one choke point. That's what you said, right?
What did I say?
In your letter.
This is coming out of here and going there and going there?
Great. Good.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
designed it.
Yeah, just, I think if the concern here is this width and the cars that are going to choose to come out and exit out rather than go through the.
Correct.
I think this is more than enough. I mean, we talked about cutting this back a little bit to make that a suffer, but otherwise the width of this is more than enough. I don't see that as a choke point.
Okay. And then Greg, in your letter, you counted on page 3, 22 vehicles? In total waiting area can hold around 22 vehicles? You okay with them saying 40?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've now demonstrated, how this is going to operate.
Okay. Any questions for Greg?
I do have one that's kind of out of left field, but if only to take advantage of your expertise, and while they're working with the state about this traffic control, and this can go to others, but do you think there'd be an opportunity to talk with the state about some striping or signage for that left lane westbound, which requires you to get onto I-95, which I hate and I think is dangerous? And we had this discussion a year or so ago.
You're talking about,
He's talking.
Other side.
but
Yeah, no, that's
further down the road,
heading
not at
west.
this
Yeah,
intersection?
but it's not far, I don't think.
Yeah.
Where you really have to get into the left lane,
Right,
or you're going to get on I-95.
correct.
And there's really no signage. There's no
Right, I mean, we could look at
striping.
that and make recommendations for it.
If you can at least raise the topic when you're dealing with them. I think you'll find that's. I mean, I've just been standing around watching that on occasion, and there are people coming off of 95, and they don't want to have to get back on, but they can't get to the farther westbound lane because traffic's coming. I just think it's dangerous, and if this is an opportunity to raise that with the state, I'd take advantage. I know you're our expert, so I should be addressing this to others. But
I think it's within the study area and within the discussion. I don't think it's too out of realm to just mention it.
I don't want the applicant paying for all this, stuff. If it's striping is cheap, it's a different kettle of fish.
Right. Oh, I don't know. I'm just
I get
urging
you.
that the
You're
state
Yeah, I
consider
think this is a separate issue from this application.
The
Which is
city
that?
is looking at the intersection,
Are they?
so we can make that recommendation to them.
Yeah.
But it
Mini
saves us
Cooper.
time.
Yeah.
This whole
But it's in Darien, right? Yeah, it's in Darien.
It's in Darien.
Yeah. They were saying Norwalk's looking at it.
Nightmare.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock, so we had a full night of this.
They gotta come back.
We're keeping this open, right?
Right, they're
Because
still working with some items. Bobby Bush, you were looking for a sign off from Bobby Bush. We're going to be meeting with DOT about this traffic light. Reached out to them, trying to set up a meeting. Jay, your team's already met with the Legal Traffic Authority over the police department, Darien Police Department. You've initiated conversation with the Sewer Commission, working with them, and I think you're finishing up with the ARB.
Yes.
You made the big hurdle with the building.
Yes.
Which,
Yeah. I think
So-
ARB, gave their approval. They just want to see that night rendering, which we'll show you all when we come back. We'll obviously have more written response to the comments that Greg provided this evening, and in his memo, I think you heard some of the answers from our folks tonight too.
Okay, we also have to open it up to the general public.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if there's anyone one here tonight. You can take one or two tonight.
Not at all. But we got 34 pages of positive comments. So we got the positive side.
There you go. My favorite was from Avalas, but from Avalas, but yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good get.
Some that live close and some that don't live close. So
Right.
We got the 34 pages of that. We do have to open up to the general public. I would propose we end this tonight, and you guys got to come back anyway.
Right, Jay?
Right.
Right, and Jay and I have talked about a couple dates, possibly January 23rd.
So this is going to roll over to next year?
Yeah. Give them time, well, think about working with this different agencies, being able to come back with a kind of a clean slate.
We have 2 meetings
in
left,
January.
right?
1 meeting left. 1, maybe 2.
Yeah.
But it's tough with Thanksgiving to get someone at DOT to agree to meet with you, sit down to a meeting, give them time to read through everything. We want to make sure that any meeting's going to be productive.
Okay. I'm going to say it for the 18th time, or the third time. So this whole thing is contingent on this light.
We will not put a shovel in the ground until we have that traffic signal signed off on. That is something that's important at Cloud 10. You know, Marissa and I were on, I won't say opposite sides, different sides of the Wegmans proposal. And there are some times where, you know, development professionals will have to drag builders or developers to the solution that's necessary. I think really what the Cloud 10 guys deserve credit for is, you know, there was never a needing to convince them of the need for these improvements. It was what's the right thing to do? What can we do? How can we do it? So that is part of our job. And whether it's January 9th, January 23rd, whenever you all want us back, you know, our job over the holidays is to corral, you know, the DOT
right, but
to give us.
Just move it a couple steps forward. You get the approval from DOT.
Yes.
Right, and that comes, you know, on February 14th, my daughter's birthday, right? It takes them 2 years to get that traffic signal built. That's my concern, because, I mean, I want to make sure that we're blatantly clear about the TCO on this thing. You get the traffic light's got to be green ball and red ball before the TCO goes.
Yeah, I mean, Marissa,
that's, I think,
talk
what
to Tommy
we're
again,
talking about, right?
They're not going to build the traffic signal. Yeah, so we're going to be, as soon as we would get approvals from you, presumably the team will hire a consultant to design the traffic signal. Let's assume it's already on this team somewhere. A traffic signal design will generally take survey 5 to 6 weeks. I mean, let's say half a year, 6 months.
But you're in the business. I'm just trying to ask you: is that
you
short?
bid it out, and it's one construction season. So if it gets bid, for instance, in April, the traffic signal's up in November. What holds up traffic signal construction is DOT having to design it, DOT having to build it. They're short-staffed. They have retirements. That's what makes traffic signals and work takes 2 years. If they're doing it privately, as soon as we get the approval from DOT, they can move as fast as they want to, and you've seen that they want to move fast. So you should be okay.
That's fine. Okay, there was another thing we were contingent on. There was something else.
There's a couple of things. They still have the health. They still have to get.
The sewer or something like that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Right, so let's continue this until...
It would be Tuesday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. in this room.
Okay, and that'll we'll open up. Anyone who came from the general public tonight, we'll open up to the general public. I'd like the traffic guys to be here again, right?
Oh, yep.
I think
everyone wrote down the date.
I think Bruce Beinfeld can take that night off. Unless he's changing his elevations or something.
Anyone need Joe Canis here on stormwater?
Joe Canis, I think, is fine for stormwater. We're going to need Greg again, and probably we got to get you. I like you here. You're designing the site plan. It's a site plan application.
To January.
Okay. So I think that's it, right? And then you get him as a new. That was the other thing you give us. You give us a new lighting study, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right. Did I miss anything? No. All right. We're good.
Great. See you all soon.
We will see you next time.
Happy holidays.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to go back to the public hearing again. The chairman's first thing. The only thing on the chairman's report. General meeting. Yeah. Out of the public hearing, ended that. Go back to the general meeting. The chairman's report. I don't really have a whole lot to report, but I do want to report that Governor Ned Lamont came to Darien a week ago Monday.
Yes.
Not yesterday, the week prior to that. It was a request by the Commissioner for the Economic Development. Is that what?
Yes, she was there as well. Of course, since she's left employment, they got a new DECD.
She's gone already?
Yeah, she just left like on
2 days ago.
Yeah, Monday.
We got a call Friday afternoon when I was en route to Family Weekend in Virginia that the governor wants to come on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And so the real meeting was put on by Tracy Mara.
Yep, Tracy Marr was there.
Jeremy was there. He found out Saturday that he had to be there on Monday. It went over fantastic. We stood in front of
Gregory's
Coffee, and then we walked up to Sweet Greens. We pointed out all the stuff that we did. Mr. Vaccaro was there. He made a presentation. Yep. Patrick McMahon, I asked him on Saturday to come up. He came up down from Boston. It was there Monday morning at 9 o'clock. He made a presentation. And then after that presentation, we went over to
David Genovese's
office, and he gave a presentation on ableist and on Corbin District. And Governor Lamont was floored, I think, and pleased. And I think the woman, Alexander, the commissioner, she already quit? Really?
She got a different job. I think it was
college.
private sector, working for Yale.
Yeah, back at Yale.
Wow. She was great, too.
Her replacement was named today, I think.
Yes, I can't remember the gentleman's name.
So I think it was great. I was really excited to see them there. So thank you to Tracy Mara and Jeremy and Fred and all you guys.
Tom O'Day was there, too.
Tom O'Day was there, too, one of our other reps. I think that's it. Anything else important that I'm thinking of? Do you have a director's report at all?
Nope, we have our next scheduled meeting is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, November 28th. That's the last regularly scheduled meeting for the commission this year. It could be that we do a quick Zoom meeting the first or second week in December to kind of clear as much as we can. We'll see how the hearings go on the 28th. The two biggest hearings will be the return of Weed Beach. You heard the first iteration of that. They've since returned with some additional details. So it's all basically, you'll hear many aspects of the application again. For Jamie, it'll be new.
And that's in November?
That's November 28th, okay. 2 weeks from tonight. And the other application is in response to a recent state statute to change our zoning regulations relative to childcare. So we'll be putting that forth as well.
What's the status with ADUs?
Dave Keating just emailed me something a few days ago. We're going to schedule a hearing for sometime in January. We're going to see how the workload goes. It might end up being January 30th. Could be. Depends what other applications come in and the nature of those applications.
Okay. I don't have the date off the top of my head, too, but the other thing that's important that we have coming up is the State of the Town Address. George made a fantastic speech last year on the State of the Town Address, since I was in COVID protocol. Right. So we're going to do that again this year. I started working on some ideas and whatnot. If anybody has anything they want to add to the State of the Town Address, please let me know in advance.
When is that State of the Town?
I'm trying to think of what it is.
I thought it was December 11th.
Yeah.
I was going to say the 9th. Okay.
It's the first or second Monday in December. The RTM is going to have some other business that night. If all goes well, things fall into place, which is a little unusual, but certain things need to get done. And so
since I was reappointed as chairman, I get to do it again this year. See?
Yes. Yes, you write it. You can read it.
Anything else? We're good?
Anything else, man?
No. We're good? Okay, with that said, enter a motion to adjourn? No, Amy made the motion. Amy made the motion. Mike got the second. All in favor? 6-0. Thank you.
Mike raised his hand.